Welcome to Wednesday Comics.
Brought to you by rootsoftheswampthing.com and Siouxpercon 2018 Return of the Con.
Hey everyone, keep turning those pages.
Welcome to Wednesday Comics. To my right, we have Jarrell himself. Alex, how you doing?
Hello everyone.
And to my left, we have Kal-El. Garrett, how you doing?
Dad.
And I am Monel, your host, Marvin. I only pick Monel because it sounds like Marvin, so that way I can remember.
And you're in the Phantom Zone.
And I pick him, Jarrell, because he's old man. I've seen this guy. I'm pretty sure your gray hair has multiplied by 2 since your daughter was born.
I actually got told that just a couple days ago. Man, look at all that gray hair.
That's what I noticed today. Today, if you go to our YouTube page, you can see the gauntlet. And when I was watching it, I was like, what happened to this man?
You know the weird thing? I don't think it's my daughter that's stressing me out.
Oh, it's other things. It's
you know, people
balance.
in their midlife crisis, they dye their hair.
You know
He's
what?
when it died. He's going all natural.
Say when I'm 30 and I'm a silver fox.
Wait, you're not already 30?
Ouch.
And obviously, Garrett's Kal-El to celebrate the 80th birthday of Superman.
Heck yeah.
We're giving him his dream, something he'll never be able to achieve because he doesn't want neck damage. He doesn't want to be able to fly after with that neck. So,
hey, I'm just saying.
Hilarious.
would you?
That's quite a tilt.
Let me ask you a question. If you could have Superman's powers, but you're yourself still, would you even do it?
What does that mean? Like I would have
fly,
I'm still Garrett, but I
you're
get
not.
all his powers?
You're not. You
I'm
can
not
be hurt.
invulnerable. I can be hurt.
So you have to obviously wear an oxygen mask or something. But you can
So like the elements can still
yeah,
affect
you can still
me.
do so. Yeah, it's gonna be cold up there. You got to wrap up.
Well, anything's
Like
better
you would
than this
work-
fucking piece of shit. So yeah, let's go.
I guess you're right. It would be better than your body now.
Right.
You
Well,
could
it's
run
good,
fast,
really.
except probably your skin would fly off.
Well, I
Your
wouldn't
legs
run
would
that fast.
break or burst into
Yeah, how
flame
fast
from all
could
that
you
friction.
run? How fast can a human possibly run without damaging themselves? 20 miles per hour?
I don't know. They were doing a
Why
new
don't-
series of Mythbusters. I'll have to ask.
So I don't know if you could ever test that. You'd almost have to put them on a car and see if they can keep up going 40 miles an hour.
Here, let's change the scenario. How about nothing happens to me and I get all Superman's powers? Then that's just fucking heaven.
I think I would just go out of my way trying to kill you.
That would make you Lex Luthor.
Get it? Because we're friends.
And I could make you look younger. I'd shave that hair off.
Superman's 80th birthday in Action Comics 1000 came out this week. That'll be our feature later on. We'll go all in on Superman.
Spider-Man.
I always say
Nice.
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man.
But it is Superman. We're also going to talk about Superman. An issue of Superman else came out, and some of the comics from this week. But we first like to touch on, speaking of the comics this week, at Lazarus. At the end of Lazarus, they announced the book's finally back, and they said, "Hey, by the way, just a little FYI, book's coming out quarterly now. It's not coming out monthly anymore. Quarterly, 44 pages of content, and then a lot of backup stuff. So basically, we'll get the source book a little at a time." And it'll be on that schedule. The trade will come out once a year instead. They haven't announced pricing, but we were guessing before the podcast started, probably $5 per issue. And then the trade will be like 15. Makes sense. You save a little money on the trade. So there's that. We announced a couple weeks ago. Not we didn't announce, but Kurt Busiek announced a couple weeks ago that Astro City is changing to graphic novels only. No more issues.
Even though the last arc's delayed right now.
Yeah, well, that's going to finish.
Hey, to be fair, I'm still waiting for Autumnland's whatever issue it's on to come out.
Wait a while. This man's finishing up Astro City. So.
I understand that. I understand.
I mean, that's what happened. That's the reason probably why, because man's slow. So,
Well, I'm sure he gets paid more to do a DC book than he's going to get paid doing his own thing.
well, it's a Vertigo book, so it's his own. I don't think the price structure is the same. I think it is kind of maybe probably the same thing. And actually, that's not true. They get paid more for Image than they do the other ones
Oh, really?
because they make more. Because there's nobody.
No middleman. It's
yeah.
just them.
I guess it depends how successful it is. Anyways, so that book's coming out in graphic novel form. Then I see today when I'm reading this aforementioned Action Comics and Superman, I see a couple ads for a couple things here, and it makes me kind of mad. Not mad, but I don't understand that why. So Man of Steel from Brian Michael Bendis is a weekly series,
Yep.
and Justice League
No Justice.
No Justice is a weekly series.
It's 4 issues.
2 weekly series, back to back. They're going to be coming out at the same time.
Yep.
So
I think they're only $2.99 an issue.
Lazarus says, hey, we're going to do it quarterly so we can make this thing right. Astro City says, hey, we're going to do a graphic novel so we can do this thing right. And those two are like, we're going to come out weekly.
Well, I do have a disagreement with you on Lazarus, though, and we talked about it before the show. We're getting like a comic and a half's worth, basically,
With
for
a lot of
3
back
months. Yeah, with a shit ton of back matter, which is going to be like 10 pages of letters and then maybe some
Well, that's so
essays and
Michael
stuff.
Lark can keep up. And that's so that you
I know,
get
but if I'm waiting
content.
3... I mean, I thought Expo 66 was the whole reason that... I
Yeah,
guess he had
it
to cool his
was.
jets, too, but...
It was the whole reason they said so you can catch up, and I guess he only caught up 3 issues so that way they can put out a quarterly book.
Right.
I mean, the thing is that also it's kind of not really changing a release schedule, it's just changing your perspective, because if it was still monthly, it would have come out 3 months, or it would have came out and then we would have delays.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it might have came out over the same course of time. So
Well, I know
It's
that
just-
next
now-
month there will be another issue, and then we don't get another one until September.
So now it's just going to be on time in air quotes, but it's also kind of delayed. You know what I mean?
right.
Yeah, but how bad it's going to be when it gets delayed, even at a quarterly aspect?
This seems like it's going to be that Shield book that you used to get, Marvin.
Way different than that. That book hasn't came out for like 10 years.
Did that ever come out that one week?
It's still coming out.
Still
It was
working on
solicited for the summer, like May or something like that.
I thought
June.
it was coming out a couple weeks ago. It was on Diamond.
No, it wasn't.
Oh.
It better not be. We're not going to
The
Marvin
miss
missed
Shield?
it.
I thought it was on the
Been waiting for
Marvel
that thing for
section.
like 11 years. Is it finally coming out?
I don't know. I thought I saw
I'm
the
going to look
news
it up
that
here in a
was.
second because now you're making me worried. But
Okay.
that's the thing, though. Would you rather, like, let's say, well, Action and Superman are changed to monthly, not more bi-monthly. So that's changing also. But, like, what's your preferred? Would you want a quarterly? We've talked quarterly before. So now that you're getting this dream, you're telling me you don't want it?
I think if you're going to get quarterly, you need to make it worth my time to have it be quarterly.
Right.
Yes, if you're going to give me 15 extra pages than what I normally would get, and then you're going to fill in the other 15 pages of back matter, that's
still gold to me.
not doing me any favors.
It's still
It's
gold to
cool to
me.
have back matter, but let's not mistake this is a comic book about a story, and we want the story. The back matter is cool because it does assist with what we're reading, but we're in it for the story.
Yep.
And so basically, I'm okay with the quarterly, but I don't want extra filler. Basically, I want, if you can't do this book, then yeah, maybe finish an arc and say we'll be back in a year or two or something. Like that's what it's felt like. If you're not going to do it, then don't
But
do it.
it's not filler, is it? Not for this.
No, I'm saying the 20 pages of back matter will be.
No, that's not filler.
10
not for-
pages is letters.
We've said multiple times that Expo 66 fills in the world. The source books fill in the world.
I didn't say
So
that
him-
was filler.
So him making backup material that he's already been making anyways, it's not filler.
This was-
I know.
Is it
I'm saying
just-
I'm talking about the letters pages itself. It's 20 pages worth of content, which is cool. Like there's good essays. He does give a lot of information about the universe, but I mean we're in it for the story. And I'm just saying, waiting 3 months for basically a comic and a half worth of pages.
But I guess, like I
don't
said
think it's worth
before,
it.
it's just changing your perspective. If it was delayed, the same thing would have happened anyways.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I guess for me, it's almost one of those things that it's delayed, in my brain, I'm telling myself, okay, that just means they're doing more work for it. Where I brought up the idea of what happens when they have to delay the quarterly. I'm already
Well,
delayed.
then we're
3
talking,
months.
yeah. Then we're that's a different
Yeah.
subject. Then we're up in.
Then we're even more pissed.
Then
'cause
then we're gonna riot. But I mean, at this point,
So what book was super delayed? Like Saga?
no.
Or what was the one that you couldn't remember what happened in the last issue because it's been so
Oh,
long?
East of West or
East of West,
Most of-
anything by Hickman,
Yeah.
yeah.
Black Monday Murders.
And that's what I'm afraid is going to happen. Like Expo 66 kept
Low.
the universe fresh in my
I haven't
head,
seen Low in a long time.
but I'm afraid I'm going to get to September and be like, oh crap, I got to go read the last 3 issues to find out what happened.
Well, then you got to only read one issue.
The one I would, but you
It's
know,
not 3 issues worth though
I would see
The standard comic is 22 pages.
for $2.99.
Yeah.
Right, 32 I think is more regular than not nowadays though.
I think Ruck would at least give you the previously, like he did in
Yeah, that's
this
true.
issue, is that you're going to go, hey, by the way, we know it's been 3 months. Let's get you guys caught back up.
Right, but it used to be 32 for 3, or 32 used to be $2.99, but obviously, but 32 pages for $3.99, and we're getting 44 pages.
Our
This issue of Lazarus is 24 pages.
It's 24. That's not a standard comic. That's Image Comics. That's different.
But we're talking Lazarus, though.
not to get us off the Lazarus track, but I'm looking at Action. Are Action and Superman going to be $3.99 since they're monthly, or are they going to still be
They'll be
$2.99?
$3.99.
Probably.
Absolutely. Drawing the line at $2.99 does not exist anymore.
I know it doesn't, but that's
Pulled that shit as soon as they printed it.
because no. In all honesty, when Action came out, and I saw it was $7.99. Was a little disappointed because I was made a promise when Rebirth came out that I'm only going to be paying $2.99. I got lied to.
4 books that come out twice a month, so they're not lying to you.
Lied
They've
because
had $3.99.
Rebirth, the starter, was an excellent book. Got that bad boy.
They've had $3.99
comics. That was to give you that taste of what you're going to
books
get
since the beginning.
to buy you into it.
Well, that's the whole point of Rebirth. They said, hey, because we want fans to like understand how committed we are to this, we're basically taking a cut for this book.
And 2 years later, we're going to kick you in the testicles and be like, bro, you like that action?
Hey, you don't have to get the book.
Here you go.
I don't know if we should complain about price in DC. They've done a lot with like that DC. The first thing was cheap.
Hey, I hate on Marvel all the time. I can hate on DC one time.
It's going to be 25 cents.
DC's return to prestige format, and they're using it's $5.99 for some of their comics or $7.99, but you're getting that a large amount of pages and a prestige cover. Think about Daredevil 600.
I don't want to.
Yeah.
I read it.
Oversized issue, $6, paper cover.
Maybe you're right. I mean, at least DC
And cheap insides.
DC's at least consistent. I know what to expect. Like this book's going monthly. I know they'll go to $3.99.
Yeah.
The Prestige, I know that's $5.99. You know what I mean? It's like when we get special prizes like DC Nation number 0 is going to be 25 cents. That's it. Oh, it's always the good surprises.
Yeah.
I never got an issue and be like, why is this so expensive? Like Action Comics 1000, I expected it. I thought it was going to be $10. It's $8.
Well, I'll admit they do it, sparingly. Hey, this is the 1000th issue. That's a huge landmark. Where Marvel just does it. We're 23 issues in, $10 markup.
I think instantly for Marvel, Deadpool. How many times do they have like an $8 issue, like an annual, just for the hell of it?
There was one that was a $10 issue.
Deadpool's the staple for it. It was, I think, like issue 25 or 200 or something, and it was like at number 27 in the actual list. It's like you don't jack that thing up to.
Yeah, they had a special issue like 25, and then like 2 issues later, it was the 200th issue or something like that. So they made that one more expensive too.
I think my bias for at least Lazarus is because I have been rereading like the earlier Superman comics, and those were quarterly, and you get 3 comics. So that could be my bias just from reading those recently. Because I'm sure you're still going to get a great amount of content, but it's like I think quarterly I get 3 issues. That's what I waited. I waited 3 months for this book. I'll get 3 issues of content going
My only
into the next
question would be: are they going to? As of right now, well, as of when they plan this, it'll be writing for the quarterly book. But will that first couple issues be actually like 2 issues, and it'll feel like it'll end and then start again? You know what I mean?
I thought that this arc is called, I think, Fracture.
Prelude.
Prelude or Fracture. It's not Fracture. The next one's Fracture.
Oh, Fracture is the next one?
Yeah.
We're not getting Fracture till September.
Okay.
Fracture's
the start of the quarterly.
Yes.
Right.
Okay, so this is Prelude to Fracture. This is
We might
a
not even
filler
see
section.
Forever.
So this
until
is just
September.
a filler. Okay.
It's what happened to Jonah. We'll talk about it, but up until we see Forever again.
You know why I get this book is forever.
RootsOfTheSwampThing.com, your definitive online source for all things Swamp Thing. Holland Files number 2 is out, Garrett. How is it?
Holland File 2's was awesome. A lot of cool like images that you haven't got to see in Holland Files number 1, so definitely looking forward to finishing this bad boy.
And that's not the only thing. If you want to learn more about Swamp Thing, Alex, where would you go?
You're going to go to rootsoftheswampthing.com.
Make sure to stay in touch at rootsofswampthing.com on Twitter at DC World Swampy, Facebook.com/rootsoftheswampthing. Why don't we talk about it? Lazarus issue number 27. This is Greg Rucker, Michael Lark. It is the prelude to Fracture number 1. It's about Jonah. So we see at the conclave, he was thrown in the water, and we thought R.I.P. We didn't know what to think. And then
I was waiting for the fight to start.
Now we see these fishermen off of what city?
Is it Armitage?
They are.
They're Danish.
Yeah.
They find his body. They pick him up. He's too cold, so they bring him back to warmth and health. And he wakes up and says, "My name is Jonah Carr." And they basically tell the family that's in charge there. Who's the family there? Hawker? No.
Bittner.
Bitter. That's right. Tell them that he's just a nobody. Don't worry about it. And if the time comes when you want us to fight, we'll fight for you. That'll be our promise. That's what we're going to give up for him. And he said, "We're going to do for me." And he said, "I'll give you he gives him a ring to sell off or do whatever for. Some diamonds in it. So Jonah is now part of this family. They kind of pass a little bit of time seeing him go through all these family events and become part of the family. And then at the end, we see that him and the girl who rescued him are falling in love.
Pernille or Pernille.
Now,
Yeah, something like that.
he cries, right? Tear?
He tears up because he's like, I feel emotions again. I'm not a cold-hearted bastard.
I'm not a robot.
Okay, so here's the thing. That's what I was going to ask. I thought that too for a second, but then also I think he knows who he is, and he knows he's on borrowed time, and eventually somebody's going to find him and want to kill him and anybody he's close to. And I think that's why he cries. I think he cries because he's like, I love you, but I know...
I've just signed their death warrants.
Yeah, he just killed all these people because he came so close to them. And that's why he tried to leave originally, because he's like, I can't do this to you. And he tried to leave. He says, I see you're arguing about me. I'm just going to go right to them and tell them who I am. And she's like, no, come back. Well, we can't have saved you just so you can go off and die again.
No.
So I thought that he was crying at the end just to be like, I do love you. And he cried being like, but, you're going to die.
That's really deep. I didn't even think about that. I was thinking more just like, yeah, he's like not happy, but he's letting himself be like...
Well, he's probably getting sucked into that moment, though, of just...
Yeah.
I found someone who loves, wants to spend time with me instead of having to compete with my twin sister and watch my other mutated sister to kick an ass.
He's finding his place.
Yeah,
Mutated? Watch yourself.
I'm thinking of Witcher-like related stuff.
Forever
She
is...
meditates, she makes potions.
She's not mutated, she's enhanced.
She hunts fiends. There's a dragon somewhere in this world.
This is a
Are
slower
you talking
issue.
about the worst video game I played so far?
This
You
is this is like the worst, not the worst.
Yeah, were you
Now
gonna
got me
say
confused.
Batman Arkham? Because that's wrong too.
No, I was gonna say you're wrong.
Too much gameplay. Too complicated.
This is it's a slower issue. Not really much happens with the main story, like you were saying. Forever, we're probably not gonna see till the quarterly comes out. It was just about Jonah, but I really did like it. I mean, it's a slower issue, but I did like seeing him go from basically death to being reborn to this new man.
Holy shit, he's the Phoenix.
And seeing like the things other people are going through. And you know what I loved about this issue? By the way, all that story stuff aside, story was great, I thought. Art was great. Mark and Lark, take your time. I loved how they spoke their language. And then in the little box, it was translated to English.
I did like that. Was a cool. I think that's a new technique.
I've never seen that before.
Never. I think that's innovative.
I've
I think
always
it'll stick
seen
around.
the carrots around it and be like, this is Russian. You know what I mean? Like we saw in Deadhead last week. I've never seen them actually write the whole other language and then a separate box connected to the same one in English to translate it. So, like I didn't...
It's almost a nice way to learn Danish.
It didn't need to tell me narration or any kind of like editors know to be like, this is translated. I got it, but just looking at it. But also, like if I am Danish or like, was it Danish?
It was Danish.
If I was Danish, you could read this comic. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, there's a couple parts where it's all English,
but sometimes even the girl speaks English, but then when they go back to it, they never miss a beat. I even tried to figure out what the words were in Danish, going, oh, this sounds like this. Hey, it's pretty close. It was personally a game for me.
Yeah, man overboard is manned overboard.
Mm-hmm.
So close enough. But I mean, I think it's the truest way. Like in movies, when they speak a different language and there's subtitles, you're still hearing the other language. It's like the first time I ever seen it actually, where you hear the language but you see what it means, rather than just them writing English and be like, "This is actually Russian."
Yep.
Right.
I really did like that. I was so surprised, and I didn't. It brought me out of the book for a second, just to be like, "That is like the coolest thing I've ever seen." I've never seen that before. And of course, Greg Rucka thought of that, or his letter. He got a new letter for this issue. He talked about it on the letter pages, so I'm not sure maybe it's his new letter. Whoever it is, it's the first time I've ever seen it. It made me so excited to be like, that's a cool technique.
Well, that's a smart move. I mean, that's you're branching out than just like you're doing the carrots going, this is the language you're learning. No, I'm actually learning this language. They're speaking it, and then I at least get to know what they are.
I thought it made it more authentic because you would read the Danish part. I would kind of like see it. I really wouldn't try to read it,
Right.
But I would like kind of see it, and in my head, I imagine them like speaking a different language and then like kind of translating it.
Yep.
So it always felt like foreign. Like I don't know what's really these people are from a different place, rather than in Dead Hand when they did the carrots. I was just like, oh, okay, they're speaking English. Like I never thought they were Russian for a second.
Well, if you think of Lazarus's audience, if you look in the letters pages, there's fans all over the world that read this book. So. And I think Greg Rucka and probably his letter and everybody are like so observant of like other cultures and nationalities and things like that it's like they wouldn't want to like, because that's what Lazarus, at least the societies that are set up right now are set up upon. It's like it's so much like animosity and there's so much difference between them, but it's not like we don't want to like exclude anybody just because the story is told by an American. He wants to include all cultures.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Cool.
You're right there that it is, even the book itself, it's a very worldly book. Like it takes place like all over the world. So for them to be like, oh, let's just replace everything with English, it is a way to kind of like wash it over. Rather than them, like in this book, they actually have the language, and then you're like, okay, it does feel like we are in this part of the world. And it really does add to it. It is kind of like a setting, not a setting. It adds to the flavor of the setting, being like, oh, this really is somewhere else.
Yep.
And I don't think we've seen it previous in this series. I think it has been carrots before. Or no, before it's just been the other language. And you just be like, I don't know what they're saying.
Yep.
But now he's finally like, oh, I found a way to do it. Because I think before, like you were saying, Garrett, he didn't want to be like, oh, let's translate this to English. So before he just be like, oh, here's French.
Yep.
And I remember downloading the Google Translate app and like holding it over to read what you were saying. Because I didn't know what it was.
That's cool.
Yeah, it changes the text to English. So I would read what they were saying. And this is a nice happy medium because it's fun enough. It is kind of cool to watch.
Well, it shows dedication on Ruckus' part going, this is something to make that world feel real. He spends all that time making the source book. He has all this information that why not include it in just the main story?
Right.
If you ever read his letter pages, you know that he's full in on this book and doing so much research and trying to figure out how to make it more authentic. So when I saw this right away, that's why I think it's Greg. When I saw this right away, I was like, that's cool. That's him.
Oh, I did see on the title page, he wrote a little line on the bottom that's like, if you see any errors of my Danish, please email me.
Oh, really?
I'll try to fix for trade or something.
Oh, that's cool.
It's like in blue, I think. Or something.
And also, because it's the he had some Spanish in another issue, and somebody told him it wasn't correct. Right, you were telling us on letter pages. Yeah. And so he did the same thing. He was going to make corrections for that.
Right,
so.
for the trade or the re-releases.
That's something about Greg Rucka, and I think Alex really does like that. And I was telling you about the source book. When he thinks about, hey, they're going to use this type of gun in this setting, he's not just picking a gun.
No.
He's really like doing a lot of research to find out if it would be the best gun if they actually would use that type of gun in that setting. And like the language, like you said, he goes out and reaches out to people being like it says here, there's 2 Danish people who did the language. So he went out to them and was like, hey, I need to make this Danish. Like he didn't try to do it himself. He wants to be authentic and real. And he wants you to read this book and be like, this is a possible future rather than being like, oh, this is one guy's story.
Well, it's refreshing to see a writer put that much time and effort and thought into how can I make my book feel real to my readers.
I think it adds to it too, because when we get stories about like the dragon, and it is like a fairy tale kind of story when a guy's like telling the fairy tale of a dragon, and you see how ruthless this guy is, it makes him seem more real because everything else, the world that he lives in is very real. And we've seen all these things that, the technology and the not health things, the medical things that we see. If you read the letter pages in the source book, actually it's more of the letter pages. Greg talks about how much research he does, like reading medical documents and like reading all this, like things that we're testing. And so, he's like reading, testing, and like talking with medical professionals to be like, okay, we are testing this technology. You think it'd be possible in the future? He's not putting things in the book that are like, oh, this would be cool if we could do this in the future. He's putting things in the book being like, we're working on this right now, and it's very possible this is going to be available in like 50 years.
Yeah.
Which is cool. That's why I love this book. That, Michael Lark's art, and Greg's a great storyteller. So this was a 10 for me. I love this issue, and I just love Lazarus. So,
Hail Lazarus.
I give it a 10 as well. I mean, I know we want forever in the book because that's like who we've been used to in this story. But I mean, Jonah's story we've all been wanting to know about, and like I have not read one bad issue of Lazarus.
I think the only weakest issue that Lazarus has had was that issue 16. No, I'm being honest.
16, which one was that?
That was the one with the
nuns.
Yes, the nuns.
No, I like that issue. We talked about that
what?
before.
No, it wasn't that bad. She's a character that comes up later.
It could have been an 8, and that's the weakest.
I was about to say that the story could be about like a cook, and he's like cooking for a town. Like he owns a burger joint, and I like good issue of Lazarus. Like he would make it work.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying it was a 1. I'm saying it was like an 8. It was still good.
Go back and reread it.
Screw you. I have to find it first.
Well, I'm pretty sure there was some French that you didn't get to see the text on that issue too. I remember.
Yeah. I mean, that's what he did before. He just put it different text or different language text, and you wouldn't know what it was. You'd be like, oh, okay.
I give this a 10. Like you said, we look forward to reading about forever. But I tell you what, just getting back into this book is great. The art was great. The writing's great. just bring more Lazarus. It's kind of unfortunate we're going to quarterly, but it may pay off in the end to be even more worthwhile.
You know what is very unique to this book, and actually I'm very surprised every time, even though there's been delays, and I surprise myself every time we start reading an issue. There is a recap page. I never have to read it. Like, I know what's going on when I start. I'm like, okay, I know what's going on. Because I think even though there's been delays, there's enough that's happened in these books that I really do remember everything. Like, and the way he's like writing this, the pacing is, it's never, in his dialogue, it's never too much information, even though there's a lot of information, right? It's never like I read a page and like, holy shit, I gotta read this whole page. I always see it, and it always feels so easy to read, kind of like how Brubaker's dialogue is for Kill or Be Killed. It like feels so easy to read. I never, like, when I see this in my stack, I'm never like, okay, I have to get through this. There's some books that I like. They're like, okay, I'm gonna have to get through this. But there's never Lazarus.
East is West is actually one of those books that, like, this one, I agree. This issue could have been wordy, and I still would have enjoyed it. And
that's
it
what I was gonna say. I like Hickman, but Black
East
Monday
to West
Murders
is one of
is
those
kind of
things.
like too much stuff.
Sometimes there's a page that's got just too much writing. It's like, okay, I got to tackle this long page before I get to the good stuff.
Lazarus, Greg Rucka, his writing, even when he wrote other titles, but more so with Lazarus because it's his thing. When I read it, I always know where we're at, and I know I'm never going to be like, oh, this is going to be boring. I'm going to be spacing. I have an issue with spacing off, and I never do it when they're in Lazarus at all. It keeps my attention the whole time. It's good.
Agreed.
You don't do that in Descender either, right?
No, I read that thing the whole way through.
It's the best. We got Further Adventures of Nick Wilson, written by Eddie Gorodetsky and art by Mark Andreyko. I caught up on 3. This book is actually, it's less funny than it's funny, but it's less like on the nose. It's just kind of this nice little story about Nick Wilson not being a hero and just trying to be a normal person.
It's real. That's the thing about it. It's not trying to make it something more than it is. Like, it's a story about a retired superhero. When he's not retired, I mean, he is, but he's lost his powers. But it's like, what would actually happen if that happened? I mean, the world doesn't stop moving.
You know what it reminds me of is, we talk about it on the show all the time. Why can't you just tell me a story? There's going to be some sort of twist to it. Like, sometimes there'll be an interesting premise, and they're like, oh, by the way, also this happens. You know, there's zombies, there's, werewolves. So when this Solstice came out, it was like a retired superhero tries to live a normal life. I had assumed that by issue 1 or 2, we would get some super villain. He would try to be super again, like some sort of twist to be like, oh, he actually, guess what? He can't live a normal life. But we're 4 issues in with 1 left. And it really is a guy who's got superpowers trying to live a normal life.
Yeah.
Like, that's all it really is. And it surprises me every issue. I always expect every issue for something to happen. Nothing ever does. Stuff happens, but in terms of like...
but it's never superhero-ish stuff. It's not like a new bad guy shows up.
Last issue he went to a school reunion.
Yep.
And the issue before that, he went to the museum. He was finally in on the museum. And this issue, was this issue with the guy he saved?
Guy.
Okay.
Yep,
so a guy was trying to commit suicide. He broke his back, and Nick's been avoiding him the whole issue. And he finally meets him at the bar, and he's like, "I'm sorry, man, that I did that to you." He goes, "He didn't do this to me." He goes, "You saved my life. I had just been diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, and I was going to kill myself. You broke my back, but while I was in the hospital, they redid some X-rays and found out that it was just stage 1." And it was curable. So I got cured, and now he lived on and had some kids. Like, he had a full life because Nick saved him, and he wanted to thank him. That's why he was looking for him. Even though he's paralyzed, he saved his life. And Nick sees in that moment, like, that he actually does some good with his life because he's been down on himself for the last 4 issues. He hasn't really thought he's really done anything. And the guy told him that he got married to his elementary school sweetheart, and Nick thinks that maybe that's what I needed to, and she doesn't want any of it. But still,
that's what I like about it too. It's like you think about these these grand gestures. Like, he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna go profess my love to my high school sweetheart," and she's like, "Sorry, bud, I got a date with somebody else, so suck it up."
And then that girl we saw in the second issue, he goes back to the bar to meet her, and he's like, "I don't know who the fuck that was. She just came in once."
It's just a girl.
And it just made me laugh, being like you said, it's never Hollywood. It's never like he's gonna show up there and be like, "Oh yeah, that's this one girl," and it's some like girl of his dreams. He's not like, "Oh, your love is there the whole time and it's going to be his high school sweetheart." It's always been real. It's always been like, "Oh no, like she's trying to move on. They've tried to do in high school. They try to get together, and he left her to be a superhero with all these girls. And she's like, we can be friends. Obviously, they're really good friends, but he's like, we're not going to date you. I know who you are. Yeah. And that's what I like about this book. The art's really great too, by the way.
Oh yeah, it is.
Good colors on it.
I like the style.
Except for that one spot.
I like the style of the drawings. It makes it is realistic, but also it's not like photorealistic. So there's enough style there for me to be like, it looks like a superhero world, but it's not really. Like, especially when they do like the flashbacks or do like that
Archie Comics look.
Comic stuff, it changes styles, and that's really cool. But I really enjoyed it. It kind of reminds me, it really is like a kind of a Kevin Smith movie, but minus all the happy stuff that would happen. It really is like a Kevin Smith kind of, and the dialogue's really great. I really do like the dialogue. It does seem real. That too, when I was reading it too, the dialogue, normally, especially when it's just two people talking and they're just like talking about bullshit, like when him and his friend are talking and they're at the diner. Is that this issue? I can't remember.
Oh, his business manager?
No, the girl.
Oh yeah, the diner.
And they're talking about how, oh yeah, it's right after the school reunion. That was last issue.
Yep.
About how he went to the reunion and how it sucked because you weren't there and all this stuff. And she's like, stop it, quit trying to sleep with me. And he's like, been there, done that. And they're just having all this stuff. And it's like, it really does seem like two friends. And I was like, that's what I like about this series, at least so far. And it hasn't stopped since issue 1. All the dialogue is realistic, and it does seem like none of it seems fake to me. Like nothing rings false.
Well, it seems like this is how people would speak.
Yeah, like that's what I mean. Like a lot of times in movies, when you hear people talk, you're like, it seems so written.
Yeah.
And this doesn't seem written. It just seems like two people talking.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like there's any real superheroes in this book anymore, like he used to be. So it seems like, he could have been a TV actor for all I care. Like, it doesn't really affect him that much. Like, you can tell, like, it doesn't bother him that he's not a hero anymore. He just knows that's what he feels is the prime of his life. But you see at the end of this issue, he takes advantage of, like, sitting next to a cute girl on the bench, and he, like I think he asked her out or something.
He's listening to music, and
she
wants to listen to it.
And then she doesn't like that it's that old time music.
Right.
She's like, ew. And he's like, then it ends with him happy on the couch, drinking beer, eating pizza, listening to his music in his underwear. And that final panel, too, made me smile, being like, he finally realized he doesn't need somebody to be happy. He's just happy being himself.
Right.
Like, he finally found reason in his life when that guy's told him, you saved my life. Like, I think for him, that was like, I've done good enough. Like, right. You know what? And, also what I like about this book, and talking about when you talked about the villains, I like that all the villains got smart and were like, I don't need to do this shit anymore. Like that one guy's like, I'm too smart. I got rich off all my technology and stuff
Jumpin'
like that.
Jack. Was Jumpin' Jack actually allied to Nick, or was he a bad guy? Because I got confused.
They kind of
they made it seem like he was
his
a bad
little
guy.
Sidekick.
Okay,
but that's not what he was originally intended for. He was supposed to be like a public service.
Yep.
He's supposed to be his own guy, but then they thought he was a joke, so he went with Nick.
Yeah,
but like all his people, like. We have Nick, who had powers, doesn't have powers anymore, so he's on his luck. But everybody else just grew out of it, being a superhero. Like that's how they used to be. But then they found different ways to, like, they got rich, and then Jumping Jack is doing business now. And
it's one of those. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. It's one of those things where the bad guys had no intention of ever really. They wanted to kill Nick Wilson as the superhero, and even then, I don't think it was to kill him.
Well, I think also like they realized. They were doing all this stuff to get rich, especially that one guy.
Yep.
And he's like, what the hell? I'm building all this shit to stop Nick Wilson. Why don't I just use this and sell it? Yeah. Like, and then he got rich. So it really does think, when you think about, the tropes of superheroes, it really does take that and be like, well, why don't they just do this? Like in Spider-Man, Jesus, Homecoming, when they have all those weapons and he's using them to steal stuff, just sell the weapons. Yep. Could have got some money. That's what he does in this, basically. He's like, oh, I know I built all these weapons. We're building these weapons. Why don't I just sell this stuff? So I really liked it. It was like it's a nice 9 always. I think it's always been like a cool, like, I think if somebody was really, like I said, Kevin Smith movies, like it's like low key, mostly about just relationships and people, friendship, and a little superhero dust on top.
I give it a 9. This is a nice 9.
All right, next we have Black Hammer Age of Doom #1, which is basically Black Hammer Season 2 #1. Written by Jeff Lemire, art by Dean Ormstrand, colors by Dave Stewart, and letters by Todd Klein. So you were wrong.
Yeah, this was much better than I was expecting.
Right. I think that solicit hung you up.
Well,
but-
I think that's the thing is when Marvin read the solicit, I got nervous going, oh my God.
But they only talked about her.
That's
why.
what threw me off, is
That
that-
does happen in this issue. She does get transported to a different dimension.
Yeah.
And it is all that stuff, but we still have everybody else. So that's cool.
And that's what I got nervous about, is that it's just going to be about her Black Hammer and forgetting all the other characters.
What's her name?
Who? Lucy?
Lucy
Weber.
And so I was excited when I was wrong. Like, this was a surprise wrong.
Which is cool because Lucy disappears, goes to a different dimension, and it seems like that's not going to be where the story goes. She's just there temporarily. And they're all trying to figure out where she went now.
Yeah, because right before she left, she's like, I understand it all. I know where we are. And Gail's like, yeah. And
Where
she
are we?
disappears.
Literally
Gail's
takes
like,
place
fuck.
right where the last issue ended. Like, even there's the same panel. Is the last panel of that issue is still the last page of this. So we get that. And then, so we get more. I mean, I really did enjoy this issue. So when Lucy goes to the other dimension and she says, what the hell is this place? He goes, yeah, you're right. Do you think she's in like that version of hell, like in Doom? There's like a guy doomed on there, maybe? I'm not sure.
It could be. I want to know who's the one that transported her there. And when I see
Probably somebody pulling strings.
Oh,
I know, but when
see,
I see Shrek, I think, for some reason, I think Dr. Frankenstein.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking Colonel Weird messed up. Because
He's freaking out.
Because he seemed so
right.
freaked out by what had happened that either someone backstabbed him or he screwed up in what he was reading in the other zone.
You think so? I mean, yeah, I guess we can try to figure out who it is. I think maybe Garrett has a good chance of being right, Dr. Frankenstein, and then bring her there. And then maybe like whatever he used to bring her there is still going and making her go to different dimensions. Or what Alex said, because he seems so worried. Dr. What's his name?
Colonel Weird.
Colonel Weird.
Weird.
I wanted to call him Dr. Strange. Colonel Weird is, he said, this is not what is supposed to happen. So he's seen this before. Obviously, we know that he sees time as always, not as a straight line. So he sees everything at once.
Yep.
And he's not supposed to be like this, and they get mad at him for a second. So it really is cool that the mystery, even though we thought we had solved the last series, I guess we'll call it season 1, is still going on because she's not there anymore.
I also like another kind of nod to the first volume. You can see, like, if you read this and this is the first thing you read from Black Hammer, you would be like, why is this Madame Dragonfly lady like trying to do so many things? And it's because, remember, she erased Lucy's memories of how she got there, and everything leading to her getting into this dimension. So throughout this entire issue, like, they're like, why are you coming in to help like plan this stuff? Like, why are you helping out with this? It's because she's covering her fucking tracks so she doesn't get caught. Because like once Lucy got the hammer, she remembers everything.
Didn't she also kill that guy?
Kill the sheriff, yeah. That's why she's leading the investigation. She's like, I'll handle the sheriff. It's like, well,
She already knows what happened, yeah.
yeah.
So that's the thing, is that Madame Dragonfly, she's not actually a hero, is she? She's kind of the anti-hero. She's doing things for her own well-being.
Well, when we think back, and I don't know, maybe correct me, Alex, when we see the fight that they had with the, we'll say Galactus on the other dimension, was she even there?
I don't remember her being.
I don't remember ever
there.
seeing her anywhere. Was she there?
The
Yeah, she was
anti-god.
there. Oh, okay. I don't remember ever seeing her.
She didn't really use any
But it's
power.
like she's not the fighter. There's like Abraham Slam is fighting. You saw Barbarian fight Golden Gale. I don't know if Colonel Weird necessarily fights very much, but she's just kind of in the background. Because even when she says to them, "Oh yeah, I used all my magic spells to try to find her. I can't find her." It's like, you're so full of shit. I know you're not. As a reader, I know you're not looking for her.
It also could have been Madame Dragonfly that sent her.
So that's kind of what I was thinking. I mean,
She has the most to gain.
this book has got so many depths to it. And when Abraham, everybody's out inside the house drinking, and Abraham calls out to Barbarian going, "What were you doing? Busy chasing after the town priest?" It's like, oh, dude, you just stepped over the line.
Right.
It was I love this issue, and this page that you're open to right now, Garrett,
All the creatures.
is terrifying.
That's what I was going to say. Dean and his pencil work, along with Dave Stewart's colors, those monster people don't look nice, and I can barely look at that page. Not only do they look creepy, they also look gross.
Mm-hmm.
Just looking at
and
them.
so we finally saw what that woman was on the inside there.
Yeah. Yep.
Going back to what you're saying, do you thinking that maybe Madame Dragonfly is like the Ethan of the series, Garrett?
Yeah, I could see it.
Was she not on the manifest?
Dumb question. You know the monster people we just looked at, those look like Madame Dragonfly bad guys. Like they look like supernatural bad guys.
Right. Well, that's just the thing is like that's where if Madame Dragonfly's here, but she looks like she's associated with those people, but then I mean
She's actually
just
pulling-
using
yeah.
some kind of detective work. I could be dead wrong, but that just kind of makes sense to me. And
So that's your culprit number one, Madame Dragonfly.
I would say so because she has the most to gain from her being gone. Because if Lucy finds out that there's a reason, and Dragonfly might be the one that's the reason they're all there for some reason.
Well, I wonder. Like, yeah, it's one of those books that I'm getting so brought into the depths of the story. I'm excited to see where issue 2 of season 2 takes us.
I give this issue a 10.
Yeah.
I really loved it.
I liked it too.
Yeah,
I mean,
me too.
10.
This
When
was
I,
a
it's like
surprise.
it's like a who done it, and it's like we get answers with more questions and things like that. It's really fun, and now that we've had the 2 minis,
Yeah,
it's like there's so many more possibilities that could happen in the
we
story.
still have 2 more of that Star one, don't we, Dr.
Yeah,
Star?
2 more of the Dr. Star, which that's been an amazing book, and it's like there's this universe is expanding so much that there's so much potential, and
Yeah.
I love it.
Way to go, Jeff Lemire.
Yes,
Give this a 10 as well.
By the way, Jeff Lemire, how you rank so many good books? I think maybe he does. Does he ever sleep? You think?
I don't think so.
And they're always on time. Have they ever been delayed?
I don't believe so. There's obviously worked in hiatuses, but
Descenders ever been delayed?
never officially. I don't think. I'm sure
Yeah.
there's a.
it's gone on breaks, but
Well, breaks he's accounted for, so maybe he's on a good thing. He's the new Rick Remender. Rick Remender has gone away from his.
Ooh.
Remember, he used to write 12 issues at a time.
yeah.
Rick Remender has not had a book on time for a long time. But he did say at the end of then. Did you read Dead in Class?
No, I haven't really.
Oh, at the, in
most
the letter
recent one.
pages, he said he's working on 2 TV shows right now. So obviously, that's the reason why his comic work is suffering. But
He sounds like Marvin when he's tired. That's what his letters page is
Working
like.
on too many stuff.
He's just like, I'm tired. He's like, even in the letter, I was like, whoa, buddy, like, calm down.
yeah, he said he goes, "I'm tired. I'm not sure you know how I'm writing this. I've been working on 2 TV shows. Obviously, one's Dead in Class. I'm not sure what the other one is. I don't know what he's working
Tokyo
on.
Ghost.
Westworld?
No, he doesn't work on Westworld. That's Ed Brubaker.
Oh.
But we know Deadly Classes got picked up by Sci-Fi. By the way, speaking of Rick Remender, and they ordered like 8 episodes. But I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what else to work. Anyways, he's the new Rick Remender, Jeff Lemire, on time, multiple books. And before we were like, how's Rick do this? And we found out that he used to write stuff like a year ahead of time.
Yeah.
That's the reason why he could do it. And I think Jeff might be doing the same thing. He might have some banked, and then he doesn't put it out till he has like 5 or 6, and then he starts putting them out.
See, the weird thing is, that doesn't even sound like to me. Jeff Lemire just writes like today is Black Hammer Day, right? In that whole thing.
Well, if you read his letter pages in a row, it said he does sound like he just sits down and just writes. So
Well, he's got so much like stories, like everything that he writes, it's like worth writing instead of like,
and it's all
creating
unique.
filler.
This is the same guy who does Royal City and Terrifics.
Yeah.
And Descender
It's like he's got such a wide variety of what he can write.
and Gideon Falls.
And
There you go,
Gideon
so Gideon
Falls.
Falls. He's gonna be writing Century.
Yeah.
The man's all over the spectrum.
So you're saying 2018, the year of Jeff Lemire again?
Oh, probably
2 years
This
back
is-
to back?
He's gonna be our contender for number 1. I read Department H number 24. This is just a weird side note. I need to know what page it was that you really liked, Garrett. Is it the?
The last page.
Last page.
Oh, really? The last page?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll show it to you later, but I
Framed
bought
it.
enough their issue and framed that part of
Okay.
her staring out at the boat.
Okay. That was not the one. That's not what I was expecting.
Black
Okay.
Hammer, excellent book. You guys
Message
waiting
of
for
the
me?
entire
So you got another
issue.
one.
Let's move on. Batman 45. This is Scott Snyder, Tony S. Daniel, and
You mean
Okay.
Tom King?
what did I say?
Scott Snyder.
Oh, really?
Whoa.
I literally looked at King.
Tom Hader.
King, sorry. And Tony S. Daniel and Tomei Morey on colors.
Oh, wasn't Jordy, huh?
This is The Gift Part 1. No, not this one. That's weird. You're right. Jordy's been doing all of them.
Jordy usually does them.
We get Booster Gold's issue. It's Booster Gold is in present time, and he can't figure out why stuff's changed. Green Lantern in the first couple of pages commits suicide.
Wait, hang on.
No, Booster Gold knows why.
Well, he knows why. I mean,
Yeah.
but he's in present. No, at first he's like, "This is weird." Then he's like, "Yeah, I think I fucked up."
Hey, dumb question.
Yeah.
So Booster Gold's not a bad guy in this book.
No,
He's currently actually Booster Gold, and he's in a different timeline.
No, he's in his timeline.
He's in his timeline.
So for Batman and Catwoman's wedding. He decided the wedding gift he would go back in time and say Bruce's parents.
Okay.
But he realized that
So he
fucks up the
screwed
timeline
up.
so much that he's like, yeah, I need your help to go back.
He
and kill
did it
your
because he
parents.
knows about all the other heroes. Because like he just had an experience with Superman where he took him back to his home world, and obviously that didn't work out as planned. And so he's like, "Oh, this has got to work." And
But he said
comes
that-
back, and
yeah.
everything's ruined.
He said that Superman was like, no, I need to go back to how things were. Even though my whole planet dies, like it led me to good things on Earth. And he's like, it was really good for him. He really liked it. It really like, made him realize what he has and loves. And so he saved his parents. And then, we'll skip the end. At the end of the issue, he's like, so we need to go back and kill your parents. And he kills Skeet. And he's like, what is my time machine? He's like, yeah, I'm going to go celebrate my parents' anniversary.
Okay.
And he leaves the place because he doesn't want to kill
biggest
anyone.
mic drop ever. I
Because
loved it.
he, like, instead of Superman realizing, no, he goes, no, this can't happen. Bruce Wayne was like, yeah, I want my parents to be alive.
Well, I because I read it and it was a great issue, but I feel like I read it the wrong way. And I know Booster Gold is normally a good guy. The way it came off is when Hal blows his brains out with his ring, going, my ring won't let me kill myself, but I've got the most will in the world. I can do this, and then commit suicide. And when I watch Booster take his glasses off with blood splurt on him, he goes, that was actually pretty cool. Puts them back on.
I think this
are you a
is-
bad guy, or are you just
No, that's
that
just-
impressed on what's going on?
Well, that's Booster. And
Yeah, he's very much a jackass.
Okay.
and I just think
Maybe that's the thing is I don't know Booster enough to know what his character is, because that's like a dick move I would say to somebody. That
So
was
Booster
cool.
Gold, like some of his not necessarily origins, but like he's very many times he's left the future to come back to the past to be like one of the first superheroes, so that he's the one that did it all.
Okay.
And so
and he stole all that stuff to go back in the past and be like, and he uses his memory of past events to like stop stuff and be like, look how great of a superhero I am, to like be.
Okay.
So he's kind of like an Ant-Man-ish kind of funny guy. jackass.
Okay.
Jackass.
Yeah.
But I thought that was really funny at the beginning when Hal kills himself and he wipes out the guy. She goes, that's pretty cool. But you can tell at that point he was like, yeah, I think I fucked this up.
But you can tell Booster Gold asked him like, I bet you can't kill
Well,
yourself.
that's the thing is, you want to bet me? Yeah, let's do this. Okay. That was
God, it
cool.
made me laugh so much. This whole issue was hilarious, by the way.
That's why I said, I told these guys, I tweeted Tom King, he liked it. Just letting you know.
I think I need.
I
I need to
said-
reread it again and enjoy it more, because I was just like,
Yeah, contextually, if you were in the
Booster, you're a
wrong
bad
place,
guy
yeah.
in this book.
He
you're
writes
bad.
Booster Gold and Skeets so well. Like he knows Booster Gold. I've seen him written before. I've never read better than Tom King writing
Like
Booster
this,
Gold.
like reading this Booster was much more. I mean, I enjoyed the book the wrong way.
right.
This Booster was much better than when I was reading the action, because I dropped that thinking this is annoying. This is good.
It's the same Booster, but yeah, I think he writes.
I
it
like
better.
when Booster and Skeet are on the ground trying to find
Skeets.
Batman. Skeets, sorry, are on the ground trying to find Batman, and then Booster gets pulled up by a noose. And he goes, I believe I have something. Batman's apparently right above us, which you've already discovered. He just goes up there. It was hilarious, but also in a way, like we talk about that ending, is very of course that's what Batman would do. He doesn't want his parents. That's his whole reason for being Batman. And if you go to the future and you tell him, like, your parents need to die, of course he would be like, no, they're going to live. Like, I don't care what else is happening. I'm like, they're here. And I guess we have seen stories before where he's like, no. Oh, no, he wanted his dad to survive in that Button story. So, but yeah, he's being very selfish right now, but I don't see any reason why I would think that he wouldn't be, because, like I said, it's the whole reason for being Batman is like, he wanted to make sure this never happens to another kid again. So if it never happened to him, why would he go back when he's like, yeah, I've been having these dreams. I know this is not right. And he's like, but this is the way I want it.
So then, what led Dick Grayson to be spoilers?
because
Batman?
his
His
parents
parents
still
parents
died.
would still
yeah.
die.
And he had nobody to guide him the right way. So
So he's a killer now.
he's a killer.
And that's what I love about this book. It's like the history, like think about pulling that moment out of time. What would happen because of it?
and
Like,
it's
what would
Tim
happen
Drake
because it's not
who works at the paper.
right.
Okay.
Because because what Tim Drake did, he was big into research
Wanted to
and like,
find
when
out who Batman was.
he wanted to find out who Batman was. He never did that, so
Okay.
he just kept going on with
And
his life.
then, obviously, why
also-
Damien's not around is because Talia wants to be the demon head.
Right, and Talia never had a child because she said she couldn't find anyone that'd be her beloved.
Huh.
And we have Jason Todd in selling tires. So he's in
So,
I mean,
yeah, that's the best part. I thought that was really on the note, just because, like, he gets murdered by Joker by tire iron.
And also,
So-
and he also was stealing tires.
he's stealing
Right.
tires off the Batmobile. That's how Batman found him. So I thought that was funny too.
Yeah.
So like you said, all these people ended up doing something similar to. I mean, they had also the qualities to lead them to certain paths, but they don't have
Bruce bringing them together.
the catalyst that made them all these different characters. So they're all doing their own thing.
So the only thing we were missing was to find out where Barbara was and where Gordon's at.
Probably
I'm
keep
sure
up with
we'll-
that crime.
Who's probably dead now.
Can't put it all in the first issue of the
I
other.
know. But like talking to you guys, maybe it is making me enjoy this issue even more.
And where's
Just-
Catwoman? Did he get married? He's getting
Yeah.
married to somebody, right? No, it's his parents' anniversary. Sorry.
Yeah.
He doesn't get married. He doesn't even care about getting married.
And how much did you guys like that scene where he's dancing with his mom?
Yeah, it's
I
really
kind of
good.
got chills. I was like, this never happens, ever.
You know what? I read that scene. Like I was in Alex's court. I didn't understand what really exactly what was going on. So I read that scene and it registered in my head that it was his mom, but it didn't register in my head, if that makes sense. Like I didn't realize being like his mom's supposed to be there. And then we get to the next issue or the next page and they start to explain it more. And I was like, oh, okay. I get what's going on here now. And I was like, that's weird. I didn't even think about like why is he dancing with his mom.
Yeah.
But Tony S. Daniel, we talked about on the forecast that the cover was great. And we're like, oh, usually he's good if you give him time. The whole issue I thought was great. None of it looked bad,
He drew it really well.
which is Tony S. Daniel. I think he did the Battle for the Cow artwork where he wrote it. I think
That
he wrote and drew it.
dude, Battle for the Cowl and like Deathstroke for New 52, that was like his best work for
Not sure about Deathstroke. I didn't read that. But Battle for the Cow was the last time I saw Tony S. Daniel like put out A+ work. And then this is also A+.
His Detective Comics in New 52 weren't bad when he
Right.
did the first couple issues.
I don't like it.
And then Damage.
Wasn't talking about
If you
you,
look
was
at
I?
Damage, you're like, whoa, buddy. Get some black lines in there.
Is he in Damage? Is that him?
Damage
Oh, okay.
actually.
I like Damage.
Damage looked fine,
I think I talked about that art.
but the worst I've seen him was his Suicide Squad when he's doing like the 1 or 3 issues. Like they looked fine, but they were still rushed.
This was fun. It was like a 9 for me. It's a nice like palate cleanser before we get the marriage and stuff.
I think talking to you guys actually bumped up to a 10 for me because I was at a 9. And when Marvin was re-saying the Skeets line of, my scanner show that Batman's right up. Oh, no, never mind. You already found out. That's
You know
good.
what? I want to say 10, but I didn't say 10 because I've been getting too much 10s in this episode. I want to go 10.
I can't help myself.
So it's really
I'm doing
funny.
10, and there's going to be maybe one book that's a 9 because the rest
By-
of these are all fucking 10.
More importantly, if I'm giving out a 10, everybody else should be giving out a 10.
By the way, I think we can but we can continue saying that Tom King, after, I forgot what issue it was, has hit his stride with Batman. Like, I don't think he's had a bad issue in like the last 10 issues.
Well,
What issue was it? At the end of
War and Joker.
War and Joker Rails.
Yeah.
Whenever that was
it was
done,
the
it's been
start
amazing.
where
No, actually, I
Joel
think-
Jones was on.
I believe actually we enjoyed it since the second interlude. From that point on,
Kite
enjoyed
Man.
it. At least I've enjoyed it.
Yeah.
His run, and I enjoyed the other stuff. I know you guys were more critical about it, but I think for all of us, and now it feels like a good Tom King, like we see. We'll talk
If
about
you read
later.
that first arc again compared to now, can't even touch this.
I think I'd almost want
Yeah,
to.
I would agree with that too.
I would almost want to reread the whole thing because I think I will still feel the same. I will still hate those first 15, 16 issues until the Bane fight starts up. And the rest of it's, even though jokes and riddles were kind of bugged me, it just seemed like a weird place to plug it. But in all honesty, all the stuff that's carried on, like the Poison Ivy 2-issue arc, or 3 issues.
3 issues.
3-issue arc, tied in nicely going, she's still struggling from what happened way back when.
And I think
That was great.
I think at least I have when that Poison Ivy arc was about to start, and maybe with this one too. I don't think with this one I did, but with Poison Ivy, I was like, really, we just had all that stuff. You can go back to Poison Ivy, like what for what? I want to learn about more of this wedding, but it's still good.
Mhm.
I mean, it all
It
makes
ties
sense.
in, yeah.
It's all been tying in about this relationship, and now we have it where we've hit all the points where it was Batman's friends, her life as a criminal, and now we're to a point where what about Batman's family, like his parents, if they were alive, and they're like how he's like. So now we're examining that, and I think it's the last thing we need to do before this wedding is seeing, because that's the most crucial part of Bruce's character.
I think the nice thing about this whole run has been the buildup for Bruce specifically is that it's less about beating the crap out of everybody. He's not using his fist like in the Poison Ivy one. He's actually using Selena to go talk to Pamela to wear her down so that Bruce can step up and just go, hey, I got to get Harley back into this.
Sorry.
Shut up. I think it's a nice character build for everybody. It's not about the usual Batman stuff. It's seeing Batman grow and to see how Selina has influenced his life and made him a better man.
You reminded me when we said Joel Jones. By the way, congratulations to Joel Jones. They kind of did a stealth announcement. Because it wasn't really planned with any other new books coming out. They had planned it to just be announced when Batman 50 was going to come out. That's after Batman 50. There's a new Catwoman series, and it's written and drawn by Joel Jones.
Side note, issue 44. That whole issue is amazing.
It is.
It's fun.
It's so good. The art's amazing in that issue.
Where they mix it between Honey and Jones.
Yeah, I heard Honey, and I thought, yeah, I do like Honey. That sounds good.
Alex, what else we get?
Is it my turn already?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Mr. Miracle number 8, written by Tom King and art by Mitch. Is it Garantz?
Yeah. We got 3 Tom King stories today.
And yes, I think who did the colors? I'm looking.
I think it's Mitch.
Oh, it is just Mitch. Yep.
Yes, it's Mitch.
Sorry. Leslie and Jordy. I'm missing Jordy.
She's slacking. She's only doing 8 books instead of 10.
Oh, gosh. She's getting slacking on.
Whoa, that's way too less.
Mr. Miracle, this last issue, his son was born. In this issue, his son is, I would imagine, 6 months maybe, or like it's between
almost a year.
It's between up to the first year of birth. It's within that time frame, and it's him trying to deal with balance between work and his taking care of his son. And by the way, I did not realize that his son's name was Jack, and my son's name is Jack. And there's a lot of things in here when he kept calling him Jack. I was like, so it actually hit home more than I thought it would be. Because actually, I think at this point, I'm past this point of his life, and Alex is actually going through this right now, I believe. So I actually feel like I was like, wow, this is a really good time for this issue to come out because Alex just had a kid, and I'm just getting over having a kid that doesn't sleep. Actually, no, he's having issues sleeping. But anyways, his name is Jack. So there's a lot of times in this book when they refer to him as Jack and like the mighty Jack, they talk about him like all this stuff like, oh, look at he can walk. And they I was like, oh, like for some reason in my dumb head, I was like, oh, this is my kid.
That was literally the last
This
page
is my kid.
of last issue. They said his name is Jack.
You know what? I don't really read.
Well, like Descender.
Alex, what did you think? For you caught up on the oh no, you had the last one with us. No, you didn't. You didn't read the last one with us. You read the 2 issues back to back.
Then. You
read them. What do you think of Mr. Miracle number 8? Right?
You know, it was really good, and it's almost one of those things that I'm not quite having the same struggle. I'm not fighting a war every other day because that's how it kind of seemed to be that way. Every other day, Big Barda and him take the day off to be home with Jack or to be at the war beating the shit out of people.
And they never get to be together. It's like one's at work while the other one's taking care of the child.
And I like the war scenes where I thought we'd see more Big Barda actually fighting, and obviously it's not her book, but there's some things that I totally agree with. You know, you watch him struggling to get the kiddo to sleep, then telling Funky that you can't have anything in their crib. And I remember the first 3 days we'd be putting my daughter in her swaddle to help her sleep because she throws her hands up and hits her face. I was concerned for the first 3 or 4 nights, going, man, is she too tight? Is she too hot? Is she too cold? Is she this, or this? You know what? After a while, you just kind of roll with it. It's like, okay, if she's sleeping.
Was she hitting herself in the face? She got them Alex arms? Is that why?
The part of it, yeah. And she sleeps with her hands next to her face.
That actually, because, it's the same thing for me. Like, I actually didn't know that before I had a kid, before I started doing, reading all this things about having a kid. I didn't know you couldn't put stuff in their crib. He's like, you can't put anything in there. He's like, but kids love Batman. He goes, Batman kills babies. Just made me laugh so much.
I kind of laughed at this one part where, so Mr. Miracle's off work, gets back to the next day, and he's talking to Big Barda going, hey, what's going on here? Oh, I picked a fight with so-and-so that if he wins, we'll take our army away. And if you win, they, whatever the outcome would have been. So then Mr. Miracle gets the shit kicked out of him. I had that day before, too. Never actually had to fight anybody, but...
I mean, it's all a metaphor, right? Even though you're not fighting a war, you really are fighting a battle when you go to work. And when you come home at the end of the day, you just feel exhausted, but you still have a kid to take care of. And there's stuff like when he's in war, and he's having a shit day at work, and his kid learns to say dada, and Barda's trying to tell him that while he's having like a horrible day at work. It doesn't really register with him because he's dealing with stuff there, and then when he goes home at the last panel, the last page, actually, this is the part that my dumb head, I was like, oh, when his son looks up at him and says dada, and in the narrations that we've had every issue that mimics Jack Kirby's first run, being like, will he survive, and like all this stuff, and then his son saying dada to him, it kind of reminds you being like, yes, this book is about him fighting this war on Apocalypse, but it's also just about him having a kid with Barda, him and trying to raise a family. And it really isn't a book about Apocalypse. That's more just like all this stuff with Barda and Mr. Miracle. It's just all it is just flavor to be like, this is a book about having a kid or having a relationship.
Being a family.
The first couple of issues were dealing with depression. That was the first half, and now it is really about trying to live your life while you have to take care of someone else's life.
Garad's art and colors, amazing. Very I like how he uses the colors of Mr. Miracle's outfit and kind of like mixes them throughout the entire story. Like he might not be wearing his costume, but you always see like the reds and the yellows and the saturated greens and everything like throughout the whole book. And I still love that there's certain moments where you still get that dark side.
It's not so much anymore, but
not so much anymore, but it's still there, like in the background. Like, you know, there's a panel with the baby that he's holding him, and like it does the little fizz thing, and I'm like, ooh, Darkseid's watching right now.
I feel like also not in that part when we get the Darkseid is, and especially before, it also is a moment when he is like really down, and that was during the scene where everybody was dead, and you know he gets on his knees, and then it says Darkseid is. Maybe that's like kind of a way of being like, you know, it's the anti-life equation. It's kind of also a way for him to be like walking, kind of like thinking about his depression again and kind of going into that hole.
Yep. And
that's what that is. Darkseid is. It goes all black. We actually haven't seen we saw Darkseid for one panel, right? In the whole thing so far.
When he kills Orion.
But really, we haven't really seen him. But he's been a character throughout all these issues. He just hasn't really been there.
No.
And the Darkseid is his presence. But we actually haven't we've seen him in that one panel.
Side note, I saw on Tom King's Twitter that they're releasing a Darkseid shirt that says Darkseid is. And it's sweet.
Is it just text?
No, it shows his face and it says Darkseid is.
Okay. That's a cool shirt. Is it like issue 10? By the way, they released the cover for issue 10. It actually is Darkseid's face. That's the coolest cover I've ever seen.
I haven't seen it yet.
It's really the coloring for that is amazing. I really do like it. But like you said, Mitch Gerads, great. I think this book's always been. And this book's still excellent.
Yeah. The variant covers are the Mitch Gerads ones are superb. Every single one of them has been
Which,
great.
by the way, I usually get, and I totally forgot. I just picked this up.
I love his sword in this book. Sword's awesome.
His book is great on both levels. Like even if you just want to slip in superhero, that's still in there. You get a little bit of that, and then like Alex was saying, the parts where you relate to having a kid and trying to balance your relationship, work, and having a kid at the same time. Like you said, he doesn't see Barda. Like we had that page where he's like, "It's nice to finally see you again." And it's like he's still in a relationship. He's still trying to make that work. That's still something you have to work on. And then he's working on building a relationship with his kid because he said when he grew up, he didn't have one really. And then also making sure that he's still being the successful leader at work. You have these three things. And so it works on that level too. And I think going back to the Batman, that's where Tom King works best. And that's why I think his Batman's doing great the last kind of 10 issues, because it's not only just like surface level. There's so many layers to this. However you want to cut it, whatever you want to taste, it's there. So
I think for both Batman and Mr. Miracle, when I read these books, it's actually less about the superhero itself. It's actually about the character. It's about Bruce, or it's about, was it Scott Free?
Yeah.
Yep.
You know what?
It's about their life and not just them being their alter ego.
And we'll talk about Action Comics a little later here, but I'm not going to be a Scott Snyder hater, even though I've kind of not really liked the way he's gone with his work recently. But Tom King is like the anti-him. Scott goes really high energy, very big story, and it's more about, look at this crazy thing, this huge mystery that exists in Gotham, this huge Justice League story, and like metal. And then meanwhile, Tom's just like, well, what's underneath the costume? And like, how are they as a person? So I think, both can work, but I really do like the Tom King insight into the characters more. So once again, too many cents. This is a great week for comics.
It
I
is
give that
a great
10
week.
I think this is just a great week for us on the show because I agree this would be a 10.
Yeah, 10. I'm trying to find the title page. There's a new letter on this book, but we got Superman number 45, written and drawn by Patrick Gleason and Peter Tomasi, or Pat Gleason to the art, but it's written by Gleason and Tomasi, and then Downer must be the inker or something. So we get the final issue of Tomasi and Gleason's run. Again, the solicits did not give justice to this book whatsoever. I was expecting to come into this and see kind of like a wonky end to the arc, and it gut punched me. This is Superman's 80th birthday week, so I was already amped about Superman. But then you don't realize how much a storyline can really resonate with you until you've been reading it for 2 years, and then you get an issue like this where it's basically remembering the best parts of somebody's lives and a certain thing that's meant so much to them. And in this case for the Kents, it's Hamilton County. That's where they basically started as a family living in that house. And when they get, brought into this continuity, that's where they've lived always since John was a baby, was at Hamilton County on Hamilton Farm. And, all the ventures we've gotten from when John, accidentally blew up was it a bird or no, it was the cat. And when, they talk about moments when they went to that snow, or was it some Arctic place? And he was talking about some of the life lessons he learned from his dad. And I really enjoy this. And I got super misty by the end because it's 2 years of story came rushing into my head, and how much that Gleason and Tomasi just get this family, they get these characters, this bond between them all. It's Clark and Lois, but it's Clark, Lois, and John, and Clark and John. And there's all these different dynamics of a family. And it's very bittersweet because it's I don't know if you guys have ever moved out of somewhere that you're you had so many memories in that place, and it's hard to box everything up. You want to remember everything and hold on so much, but sometimes you just got to move on. And I really like throughout this whole issue, one of those things that they hold on to is the Kent's mailbox. And Clark's like, what are you gonna do with a mailbox in an apartment in the city? And she's like, we'll figure something out. And Marvin, what do you think about this issue?
All the things you said, it does remind me of, if you go back to listen to our book club from last quarter for Day Tripper, there's a scene at the end when they talk about what home really means. And home isn't a place, it's people, places, and it's what you have in your house, but also the people you choose to live with. And it's kind of like a feeling more than that. And I think that's what this issue really was about, is even though they were moving, Lois had a hard time about moving out of the house, and she had a lot of memories. But then Clark and John went out, and he was trying to teach John that it's not really this place that you're remembering so fondly. It's the things that we learned here, and that even though we're leaving, doesn't mean we're leaving those stuff behind. It's still part of you. And they talk about how he was teaching him his powers, like you were saying. And he says, I wasn't teaching you how to use your powers. I was teaching you how to build your character when you're out here. The reason we have these powers is not to show them off. It's to use them for good, and that you can choose to do good things. And showing him how to be a man when he was out there, how to be a good person. And Lois is cleaning the house, and she's just having that moment when he walks in, and she's oh, Lois, you okay? And she's like, yeah, I got some memories and dust in my eyes. That's what she says. And she goes, but it's okay. She goes, there's nothing here that we're not taking with us that means anything. So it was a really great issue, and I think it's a nice way to cap off this. They go back to the carnival. It's a nice way to cap off this run. I didn't read the last arc, the Bizarro one.
The only thing, they're just sprinkled in this issue, basically.
That would be my only thing that I like about this issue. But then again, it wasn't horrible. But I didn't really, since I hadn't read the last thing, I really didn't care about it.
And I'm glad, it didn't have a full issue about them, because I think this was really a good goodbye issue. And I know we're still going to get that special, but I really honestly don't need it. I think this is enough for me to be like,
Yeah.
that's a great conclusion. And even when you think this issue's over, you get that title page, and then, you see Bendis is coming, and they show the Man of Steel thing, and then you kind of get a little nice epilogue where Clark and John went and saved the day, basically. They ate a box of pizza, and then Lois sends the Kent mailbox on John's bedside table, and it's like, damn. That just like resonates with what Gleason and Tomasi, it's always been about family, parents and children, and just, like Superman and John. Like, that's what it has been. Clark Kent and John, like, the whole time. And, man, what a great run.
I am, so I do have that fear, like you just said, like, I don't know what else they could tell in that one special that they're bringing out, because this really did seem like a nice way to end this run. It really did encapsulate really what this run was about. It was about family. It was about building character, showing who Superman was as a person. But I also have a little trust, because we'll talk about Action Comics later on. They did a story in there, and I really did enjoy it. So I'm like, oh, well, they can just write anything Superman. So no matter what they choose that special to be, I think it'll be okay. So
there's a cow in this book that has 5 teats on its udder. Bugged the crap out of me. I didn't even read this issue.
It's from that one.
Is that the
arc?
It's the
Bizarro Redeath.
Oh, it is. It's from Bizarro's thing. Okay, then never mind.
Oh, really? I thought it was from that one arc with that black.
The Black Lake thing, or the farmer was the bad guy.
Oh, it could be that,
because they focus in on the cow's eyes.
Yeah, there's a cow on that one that was.
But the only reason I bring it up is like I hadn't read this, but I looked through it and I thought, that cow's got 5 teats on its udder. That bugs me. They only have 4.
But then you saw the eyes.
Then I saw the eyes and I thought, maybe it's a weird cow.
So it's weird.
It's a weird cow. So
this is a solid 9 for me. The only thing that bugged me with those Bizarro things, but
it was a 10 for me. Anytime Crypto's on a freaking cover, it already goes up a point. But I really enjoyed reading this, and it did prime me for Action Comics 1000. But one scene especially that kind of got to me is like when Lois is in, she's like, I'm gonna go clean the kitchen, and then she sees all the footprints of John and like Clark and like her like walking around this deck, and then she has to wipe it away and she starts crying. It's like, that's kind of what it is right there. It's like, you got, like you said, Martin, you got your whole family with you, and it does make me extremely nervous that with Bendis' run, it seems like something's going to happen, but I don't know. But for right now, I get to know that they kind of live happily ever after at this point. So that's it's a fun way to end that run in my mind, and wow, what a great issue. So 10. Superman
number 45, Batman number 45, Black Hammer, Agent Doom. Number 1, Lazarus number 27.
Yes.
Nick Wilson, The Adventures, what's it called?
Further Adventures
of Nick Wilson, number 4. And Mr. Miracle, number 8. Supercon 2018, Return of the Con, September 28th, 29th, and 30th. Tickets on sale at supercon.com. Alex, we're going to be there doing a show, aren't we?
Yeah, we're going to be there on the 28th doing a live show for everyone. What's it going to be called? Wednesday Comics After Dark.
And not only us are going to be there, a lot of people are going to be there. Phil Hester, right, Garrett?
Yes, Phil Hester, the current artist of Batman Beyond. He's done other projects like Shipwreck. He's done some Swamp Thing that you may or may not have seen, and some Holland Files that came out recently.
Not only Phil, Science Steve, Shay Fontana, Tony Fleece, Travis Nye, Midwest All Pro doing a show the 28th. They'll be doing a show that night. That's the main attraction that night. Jill Thompson, Ryan Cody, John Allen, and more. Tom Wynn. Going to be at supercon.com. Make sure there's a lot going on that weekend. I would say, if I am going to tell you any kind of advice, buy that weekend pass. You won't regret it. You got MAP concert that night also. You got Wednesday Comics After Dark. And then you got a whole weekend of stuff to do, people to see. Supercon.com for more information. Here with our feature this week, Kara was talking about 80th anniversary of Superman. Kal-El, the man with the S on his chest,
stands for hope.
The Man of Steel.
Action Comics 1000. They delayed it so it would come out this week, so it coincides. Snapchat had a filter. You make yourself Superman this week also, or yesterday.
What? Oh, I didn't see that.
Oh, it's gone now, baby. I don't know. It might be still there.
Thanks for the heads up.
I figured you would be all out over this stuff.
I thought you were snapping all the time.
80, you're on that stuff all the time. 80 years of Superman special hardcover came out last week. What else have been new with this thing?
They released a cover for each decade of Superman, basically.
Is there 10 variants?
10 variants, not including all the exclusives all over the country for local comic shops that have been released.
I drew one too. Just a stick figure with an S in his chest. No. Hey, Garrett,
you owe me money for that.
Garrett got instead of, he doesn't like tattoos, so he went with scarring. He scarred the S in his chest, so he's good now.
Should have just gone with henna. That's less
No, he went Smallville. Episode 1.
Oh.
America.
You're
Anyways.
If you do that, I will judge you forever.
If I put Smallville across
landmark issue.
Carve it into your chest.
Let's go through these stories one by one.
Handle that pain.
We'll talk about these stories one by one really quick. Not really quick, but we'll go through them as we see fit. But From the City That Has Everything is by Dan Jurgens, Norm Radmund. Colors by Hi-Fi. This is the first story in this book. What do you think, Alex? I believe you said you enjoyed it.
So not being the biggest Superman fan, I went into this going, God, all they're going to do is praise Superman. And you know what? Actually, I agree with what they did. I mean, it was me trying to be a dick, and then
I know, but that's weird. You're going into his 80th anniversary to celebrate the hero, and you're like, they're all going to celebrate.
But it was one of those things that they is it. Oh, how does it go? I think here. Lois keeps being on the phone with supposedly Perry White. And I was like, God, there's trouble going on. What the hell's going on? And Superman finally, it keeps getting, maybe that's something out there. Who's he fighting? Like the Kaloons or Cathoons?
Cuns.
Those guys. And Superman goes, maybe that's one of their warships out there. Nope, just seeing things. Or he keeps seeing, he almost seems like Batman paranoid. Something bad is going to happen. And I don't want to be celebrated. I'm just doing what I want, need to do. What's best for everybody. And Lois keeps telling him, no, you're going to stay here. And John's like, do you need me to go fill in? Which was, Marvin brought up a good point of Lois keeps calling his dad, Clark, to John. Like, Clark will be here. Why are you telling him that? Why is it Clark? Why isn't it Dad?
Right.
But anyway, then to find out that Clark does go to help people, and it turned out Bruce was the one who kept calling Lois.
Saying,
going, bring in the big guns.
Yeah.
And Lois is like, no, he needs this. He needs to be here. And Wonder Woman's like, no, we didn't want you to show up. We wanted to help you out so you're not having to do this all the time. To show you how much you mean to us. Because it's not just you who touch us. It's, everybody else in the world actually, well, I think this is a different story.
It is.
Inspires Superman to be who he is. And so I went in to be cynical on this part, and actually it was really good.
Well, I think what it says is, Superman, he's focusing on his mission, whatever, and like at that time, it's to save people. It's to make sure these guns don't come and like hurt humans, basically. And he's so distracted with doing the right thing that he doesn't get to take a moment to just enjoy the celebration and like the praise he's getting from other people. But it does touch on it somewhat that, yes, Lois even says it to him, like, as much as you take you inspire others, we know you get that same inspiration from them. And one of the coolest scenes ever is seeing all the Justice League characters. I felt like there could have been some more added, but whatever. Onto that 2-page spread of all the heroes, whatever, kind of just waving at him and just like smiling. And it's like, yeah, that's our friend. Like, that's our guy that we work with. And like, we are glad to have him as part of our team.
Even Bruce smiled.
And they even say without him, there would be none of.
Does he not?
No.
Okay.
He doesn't. He said they all say, without you, there wouldn't be us. And it kind of gets meta at that point in my head, just because like, that's true. He was the first superhero in comics. He was the foundation that the rest of these heroes got built upon. Yeah. So if it wasn't for, Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster, comics could be very different today. We might not have the heroes that we love. So,
Batman's he's not frowning though.
He's just straight faced.
Yeah, he's straight faced.
That's as close to a smile as you can get.
Actually, really didn't enjoy this first story.
Really?
I know you guys are saying you're liking it, but yeah, I thought it was just too convoluted to get to a point. I knew where it was going both.
Yeah, but I went in being a dick, and it turned me around.
I thought as a first story, it was a little.
I didn't like it being
much.
A first story. I agree.
Like the next story should have been the first story. Yeah, it's too long.
Yeah.
First off, too long, and I thought to get to that point, I was kind of like, and plus also a couple things ring false to me. I thought the Clark thing that you talked about a second ago, and also that he would be so concerned. about these guys, which I'm sure he would be, but also like he seems to totally not care about his family whatsoever. And I was just like, I'm pretty sure he would be more involved, be like, Lois, like these people are coming, like we need to get you to safety and stuff like that. But he never once is concerned about their safety, the whole issue.
No.
Well, that's kind of danger. He just does like the most insane thing to make it. And I agree with you on that point. Like it could have been something more close to home, like maybe, I don't know, maybe Lex Luthor is going evil again or something at least interesting. And instead it was just like, these aliens are going to come in and kill us. And it's like,
I didn't think of it that way, that he is so unconcerned about everybody, even in the facility that he's at.
Yeah, it seemed like such a cold Superman when he's usually more concerned about the people. He seemed like he just wanted to find out those guys were coming back so he can kick their ass. And I was like, what about these people?
I need to get away from you.
He's not even like, hey, we got to make sure these people are safe. Like, there's a lot of people around here. He's just like, are they coming back? I got to kick their ass again. And I was just like, okay.
But, that could also be a tell for the story because, like, once he gets all that recognition, he starts remembering that he's inspired by all these people.
But that's what I mean. Like, I feel like Superman would know all this and, like, maybe concerned with the people. He's always been a person who loves these people. That's the reason why he considers himself more human than Kryptonian.
He's 80 years old. He might have dementia.
So then it was weird that he's like...
Maybe that's why he doesn't care about Lois. He doesn't know about her.
Are they by Saturn? Are they by Venus? He's like looking up there and like, who gives a shit? How about you say these people? They're not even by Earth yet.
Yeah.
So that's the only thing for me. But I like the sentiment and what they were trying to do. I just didn't like the way they did it.
A little too on the nose.
You didn't like them celebrating Superman?
No. Never Ending Battle. This is story and words by Peter J. Tomasi, art by Patrick Gleason, colors by Alejandro Sanchez. This is a story when we have Vandal Savage, who shoots Superman with a thing that will send him back in time. And it's kind of a cool way for him to go through Superman throughout the ages and through all these stories and like kind of do... It's mostly about the art. Each page is like a huge splash, and then there's little narrations about him being like, oh, I think I remember this. And him basically talking you through being like, no matter where I'm at, what Savage never accounted for is that I always come back because my family will always be there. And every story, no matter what the story's about, I'm always going to have a family there, and that's what connects them all. And so he gets brought back to his storyline or his timeline and punches out Savage. And then doesn't he have a little cake with his family?
With, I assume 80 candles.
Yeah. Probably.
Dude looks good for 80.
The only thing that this story I really did love. The only thing that kind of rang false to me, though, that New 52 Superman, he was never about family. So
that's true.
But you really did like this one.
Yeah, I did.
Okay, I misheard you. I thought you said I really didn't like this one.
No, I said I really did.
This is one of the strong ones for me.
New 52 Superman's in here.
Yeah.
And I was like, and when he was like, family connects all these stories, I go, why not that one? Well, and you weren't even with Lois in that story.
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, what's great about that is like you said, all the little snapshots of his history. Even so, like animated series, Superman's in there. You could probably catch a little glimpse of Christopher Reeve. There's George Reeves, who was from Superman and the Mole Man movie, which is one of the first movies with Superman. There was the Fortress of Solitude from the Superman the movie, and like the cool thing with the Phantom Zone where you get trapped in the mirror.
Oh,
and I think there was really great nods to Superman's entire run, like who he is as a character. I mean, it's not everything, but a lot of the big landmarks that is very special. And man, Gleason has a lot of range.
This was a great step up for him. This is one of the strongest things I've seen him do.
That's what I was like too when I was reading this. I was like, you got some pretty good styles there, buddy. I think Gleason's a great artist. His style that he chooses to use a lot of times because it gets kind of annoying every once in a while. Like it's good, but
just too much shadow.
Yeah, and every once in a while people's faces are like too expressive.
Sometimes it feels more cartoony than I'm expecting.
But like there's that panel or that page in here when that Superman stopping the train. I was like, that's a great style. Why don't you do that? Or
when he's struck by the lightning.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a disgusting look to it, but it's
Dark
good.
Knight. It's from Dark Knight Returns,
right.
Yeah. So like it's
paying homage to the Frank Miller.
So it's kind of doing a Frank style, but like you were saying, like he's mimicking these styles. I'm like, you're pretty good at some of these.
Right.
This really should be your style.
One of them looked almost like Haneen. Like it was that kind of clear.
The Supermans fighting each other.
I was like, holy crap.
The thing I liked was one of the first things. I think it goes back to the 30s. And he's talking about, I'm not nearly as strong, or I'm not nearly as fast. I'm just faster than a speeding bullet. Oh, that made me smile. Then the next one is he goes to stop the locomotive. I'm stronger than a locomotive. I like these little nods to what his not his catchphrase, but his build up to his character used to be.
Right.
Oh, that's nice.
By the way, throughout these stories, so that story is really good. I did like that story. In between the stories, they have some pinups, right? We have different artists. The John Romita Jr. one reminds me why I don't like his style. And just like...
Yeah, I didn't think it looked
Superman.
that great.
The face is off. One of his legs looks like it's deformed.
Like it's struck by lightning.
He looks like Tommy Pickles' dad from Rugrats in a Superman outfit.
Kind of.
Well, yeah. So Superman, in this panel, when he's having the birthday cake, they are acknowledging he's 80 years old. But Lois is still like 32, and they're okay with that.
Just Gold Digger.
Next story, Enemy Within. This is Mark Wolfman on scripts, pencils by Kurt Swan, inks by Butch Geis and Kurt Saffenberger, colors by Hi-Fi. This is a story.
Is this the Maggie Sawyer one where Soups really isn't in it?
It's Maggie. It is the Brainiac story. Well, he's in it through narration.
He's talking, but he only shows up that last page.
So,
Well, this is actually found on Kurt Swan's desk. It was never published.
oh, really?
that's what I was going to ask you about. I was
right.
confused on, like you had said, based on the story by Kurt Swan, but Mark Wolfman did the script.
Right. So it was going to be part of a Superman issue. It's only 12 pages, and they condensed it down, obviously. Well, it's only 5 pages in this. He did write 12 pages, and 12 pages got drawn. But they used those 4 pages, and they used the 5th page of another story written by Kurt Swan to tell this story. They just restructured the narrative for it. And, yeah, it's a fun book. Kurt Swan's art is so great. I think the message gets across that... because, Maggie's dealing with a hostile situation and how I think it's her taking inspiration from Superman, isn't it, to kind of do these things?
Well, it's yeah, to an extent. Superman doesn't have to be there to give these characters strength. It's to see how Maggie handles the situation. The Superman's not always needed.
Yeah, it's the part when she so the guy has the principal hostage at school, and they shoot him. They get a clear shot, so they shoot him. And Superman's like, "Oh no! Like I can't get down there quick enough." And then he's like, "Oh, rubber bullets. Good choice, Maggie. Way to go!" And like Alex said, like he doesn't need to be there for everything. Just people can handle their own stuff. The whole thing I didn't get was at the end. What's with this creepy guy just staring at the screen?
I didn't understand because I thought that was the Brainiac
This
robot.
here, and it just says click connection attempt number 10 and 3 2 failure offline. Were he's trying to connect again with somebody else?
Yeah,
to
basically
maybe
he's
get
trying
that.
to find another connection to.
And then Superman then
control.
says you can't control people because they're too stubborn, and that's the reason why they'll never be taken over, because they'll always find a way to fight back. So it's okay story like that. Kurt Swan's art, like you said, actually I do like it. And the last page was different art for some reason. Like you said, it was a different
Right.
page.
It was taken from another trade base that had already been published, and it was repurposed for the end of this, just to have Superman in the book.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that way I couldn't hate on it. Superman was in the book.
It wasn't. I'm starting to realize, because I did like the second one. I think maybe like the older kind of Superman story, not older, 80s, 90s Superman writers and stories. I don't think I really enjoy that much.
I don't either. Even those covers for the variants. I got 30s and 40s, skipped 50s through 70s. 80s was good, and then didn't get anything else.
It wasn't bad, but it was just like not my thing. That's what I was reading. I was like, I don't think it's for me.
It's two silver bronze age.
The writing I liked in this one, and I liked the moral of the story was that Superman doesn't always have to be there. That these other characters are strong in their own being. I agree. Didn't care for the art. It was kind of too not sketchy. Even it's just too many weird lines that didn't need to be in there.
Unlike the first one. The first one I had issues with. This one I didn't have any issues with. I just didn't enjoy so much.
Yeah.
So I knew it was just like, that's not my thing. The next story, though, let's talk about this baby. This is The Car by Jeff Johns and Richard Donner. Art by Ovalator Coppel. Colors by Alejandro Sanchez again.
This is Jeff Johns.
This is Jeff Johns and Dick Donner doing a story that is based off Action Comics #1. When in Action Comics #1, when he lifts up the car and crashes into it, there's some guys who fall out. One guy gets put on top of a telephone pole. It's about that guy. And Superman comes back and goes, "Hey, I was going to take you down that pole, but you were out of here." And he says, "You got to decide the person you want to be. And like, you don't have to go the wrong way." He's basically showing to be like, "Yeah, like I did stop you, but I'm not here to beat you up and, stop you again. I'm here to tell you, like, there's a different way you can do stuff." And he goes, "See you around." He flies away, and the guy's standing there. And then you see him open up the, using his criminal days, instead of robbing banks and kidnapping people, he opens a fire hydrant. Still illegal, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
But he uses it to
douse those
spray
kids with
the
water.
neighborhood kids so they can keep cool on a hot day. Because you see in the panel before, he's sweating. It's a hot day.
Well, he talks about being in the orphanage and that those days were hot. I wish that someone, the swimming pool was open, but there wasn't one to be had. And so instead, he's going to be a good guy and go help those kids out and then go get put in prison again for.
I really did enjoy this story.
Yeah, this was aces.
One of the best parts that I love is it uses the images to do it's a bird, it's a plane, it's Superman.
Yes.
That was so good.
You know
Love
what?
that.
Also, Coppell's art in this story was amazing. This is different than his usual style too. Like the colors are more muted. I think it's just all over his. I like Sanchez. I'm guessing here because he did the colors also for the Never Ending Battle Peter J. Tomasi one. So I think it's just his colors with this people's art makes it look popping.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, the art was great. But something about Jeff Johns and Richard Donner really do get this character.
Oh, I give it some energy.
And when I read this, I was like, there's some stories, like I said, the last one, I was just like, it feels like something like reading Superman, like trying to write Superman, Dan Jurgens. In the first story, I felt like it felt like somebody trying to write Superman. In this story, I was like, hey, here's Superman.
This felt like Superman.
I was like, this is
Have either of you read The Last Son of Krypton?
The Last Son of
by-
Krypton, yeah.
Okay, that's such a
That's
great
when
book.
actually it came out around 2007. That's when I started getting into comics.
I don't know what that is. Is that the 6-issue run where all the covers
No.
connect?
No, that's Secret Origin. But
It's Richard Donner and Jeff Johns wrote a story. It's
the original director of Superman,
Yeah.
Superman 2, basically.
Nope, haven't read it. I should read it.
But yeah, that was great. And, it was fun for me because I had read Action Comics #1 right before reading this. And it's fun how that ties into it.
it was a shorter story, not really that much happened, but the weight and the quality of those 4 pages, I think it's 4 pages,
Yeah.
was probably the best thing in this book. Even though I did like that Peter Tomasi. At this point in the book, I was like, this is the best story in the book.
Yeah.
But I said this is one of the stronger ones. Actually, strongest.
Also, that last panel reminded me of Summer in the City, and then I thought about Die Hard with a Vengeance, and then I'm thinking about people dying. So, like, maybe it didn't do that good. So, the next story we have is the 5th season by Scott Snyder, art by Raphael Albuquerque, colors by David McKeag, the team from American Vampire, which I saw right away when I saw this page. I'm like, hey, this is why the book's not coming out. DP's writing this. But Lex Luthor tells the story. Garrett, what did he tell? What kind of story did he tell?
He's talking about how, there's 2 narratives going on. One about the museum, that like the Astro Museum, whatever, I don't know, can't think of it, planetarium basically. And then there's him explaining the 5th season in basically Smallville, which is there's a season where weather's all over the place. It could snow, it could rain, it could be
What we're in right now.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
Between winter and spring,
we
you
are
said.
in the 5th season right now. So that's what he's explaining. But it's also what I do love about this is it does flashback to when Clark's younger and kind of Lex, he's an adult. Because Jeff Johns redid the origin where Lex and Clark went to school together, and I really do like that they kind of stuck with that, at least in this part. And basically, Clark and all his buddies at school were like, Lex, you're ruining our project. And Lex doesn't hear him, and he's still focusing on whatever he's trying to do to send a message out, an SOS to if there's any aliens out. And but Lex, he sends this message thinking it worked, and then he finds out later that, oh shoot, I forgot to heat up the mercury. Well, when you go back, Superman actually did, so it did get sent out 100%. It's just that Lex never thought it was going to go anywhere.
The art was actually okay.
I don't know. I think Albuquerque's like kicking ass lately. Like I love.
The dude draws. I love him. I love American Vampire. The dude draws faces that all look the same. But everything else, coloring and like the background, like in this panel here, great. That's great too. Yeah, I like the way he draws Superman. That was good too. A little baggy on the trunks there, but otherwise it was good.
And you weren't really a fan of the letters.
Oh, buddy. Scott Snyder's story. We were just talking about before. He tries to do stuff like
$2,000.
Way convoluted story to tell a simple premise that even though Superman and Lex are enemies, they really aren't that much different. They're just having they have a different ideology about like how to go about things, but they're still like kind of the same person. And he talk about in here, he's like, hey, you have what does he have in his hand? The time scissors and the Eye of Zonar chrono time scissors. And he's like, no, I'm not going to do anything with those. And he tells him that story. And then he goes, yeah, I was going to kill you with those, but Not anymore. But maybe.
I would have rather this. Not, I mean, Scott Snyder couldn't help himself, but I think what's the saying? Every great hero has a great villain, and Lex Luthor is his arch nemesis, like through and through. And so I'm glad he made an appearance in this annual in Action Comics 1000, because I think not doing that is actually a shame. But I think Scott's story was kind of all over the place with too many messages, and it's only like 8 pages or even less.
Probably it's
maybe 4 or 5.
I think for Lex to be in this book, I'd rather have seen it be in I maybe not one day of the year would Lex Luthor and Superman ever meet up and be cordial. I mean, Superman always would be, right. But I almost want it to be where it's almost like a respect thing, where they they happen to meet on Valentine's, whatever night of the year it is. Going, so you're not dead. No, maybe next year. Like it's almost like a challenge, but it's not to actually do anything to each other.
See you on your next birthday, kind of. I would that'd be cool.
It's like what Bruce and what Batman and Commissioner Gordon do. They meet on Christmas every year, and just sit and have a cup of coffee at this cafe, 24-hour cafe type of thing. I'm thinking from the animated series.
Yeah.
But that's kind of what I wanted this to be. A snowy night or a rainy night that they would meet and just have just a small conversation of, hey, Soups, you're not dead yet. Maybe next year. But I need to be, I don't know. I wanted something different than, I was going to kill you with these scissors.
Right. Yeah, too much.
But I saw that you brought a rock and it beat me. I don't know. There was something that rubbed me wrong. Where if you're going to bring Lex in, because you're right, he's the Joker for Superman.
Right.
I was telling you guys before we started the podcast that there's just something about the way his dialogue. It doesn't flow. It doesn't keep me engaged. It's just it just beats you down to a point where I started glossing over and I started skipping stuff because I'm like, let's get past this. Yeah. And those two things with the scissors and the eye, just for me seem like unnecessary. It just feels like Scott goes back and there might be stuff when in his other writing which he just does remember about the mythos and be like, oh, that's cool, I should bring that back. But this seems like he went back and was like, what can I use? It was just two random things. And it's like, oh, okay, well, I'm sure you're adding flavor, but it does also seem like for what reason? Like Alex said, it could be super simple to set up the story, but you find a way to make it more complicated than it needs to be.
I would have rather that Dan Jurgens cut down that first part of his story and then did an awesome, because I think Dan Jurgens does get Lex Luthor, and I think it would have been cool to have him write a Clark Lex Luthor at least interaction of some sort. But maybe we'll get that in that special, and maybe it's Lex hanging up the robot, like the Superman mantle that he's been trying to carry for the last 2 years.
Yeah. So, for me, it was more disappointing than anything. Because when I got to the end of it, I was like, Scotty! Because I didn't read the first page of the credits. When I read the stories, whenever they had the credits, that's when I figured out who his story was. So I got to this point, I was like, Scotty! I knew it was Albuquerque, but I didn't know it was Scott. And I was like, come on, you can do better than that. It makes me sad because American Vampire is so good. And lately, his work has been, just at least for me, not what I fell in love with. And every time I read something by him, I'm just more validates me being like, yeah, I guess I don't think I'm really into stuff anymore.
I find that
makes me scared for that.
His Rebirth stuff I haven't been enjoying. Obviously, his New 52 Batman.
Yeah, I'll go with that. It's been since Rebirth. Yeah,
is a staple of. For some people, that is their Batman. Was my Batman until I fell in love with that.
He kind of went back to being good. There was that All-Star Batman, not the first arc. That wasn't really great. That was the same thing. That's too convoluted.
Yep.
But the next part that were all those one-shots, he was actually getting good again. I don't want to say that.
He's focused because he seemed to be focused on the issue at hand and not the overall story.
Not trying to do
that was the old Scott. Like you said, It was more contained, more like, hey, I gotta do this issue. And he said himself that he was trying to do different narrative styles with those issues, and I think it worked because he was like, it's more focused on how to tell a story rather than being like, let me add these elements for no reason. But in those stories, they were good. So we have another story next. It's called Of Tomorrow. Tom King, Clayman, and Jordy Blair. Hey, here she is.
Hey, finally.
You had a story that I read this one a while back. This is one I was talking about. Tom King put this on, or not Tom King. DC released this online. Superman goes back to Earth. Earth is getting pulled into the sun, and it's blowing up. So he goes back to say goodbye to his parents, who are buried on Earth, and tells them, hey, here's what's going on with Lois. She's drinking the, what do you call it?
I don't know, like life formula, something that keeps you
it's grape
immortal.
flavored, right?
Eternity formula. That's right.
Eternity formula.
Tastes like grape. John, I wish you could see him now. I'm so proud of him. Reminds me of you, Ma. You're kind and sometimes stubborn. And he makes diamond. He crushes these rocks to make it a diamond. And then uses his not X-ray vision, but his heat vision. And then he cools it down. And you can see it's him. It's Mom. I don't know why you just right now caught me off guard, because I actually didn't really look at this before. It's Ma, Pa, Kent, and Clark. And Clark's looking up at his parents. And he puts it at his parents' grave. And he says, goodbye, Ma, goodbye, Pa, and thank you for everything. And the whole issue is basically him saying goodbye. And I don't think there's better. This is actually this one and that Richard Donner one are my favorite in this whole book.
I think that it's top 3. There's one that's coming up that I really like, but this one is really touching too, because there are things that I kind of had a checklist of things that need to be covered when you're remembering this character. And one is Lex Luthor. Another, the people that made him who he is, and you think that's Jor-El maybe, or you think that's Krypton or him having powers under Yellow Sun. No, it's Jonathan and Martha Kent. They're the reason that he is the hero. He is the person. He is the guy that we aspire to be or we're inspired by. And it's all from 2 farmers in a small town in Kansas that raised this boy like their own. And that paying tribute to them, I think is one of the greatest. I mean, it makes me think of Day Tripper quite a bit, because you know how you can return a legacy around, and it's like, you're not needed anymore, and you just keep moving on down the tree. And he is saying goodbye, but he knows that he wouldn't be who he is, or Jonathan wouldn't be who he is without their guidance. Yep. Man, I really miss Ma and Pa Kent so much.
I think Tom King as a writer is actually one of the writers who understands how to make a book have meaning. That this book has nothing to do with Superman being Superman. It has Clark Kent being a son.
Yeah.
And that two of the most important people in his life were Ma and Pa. And this will be one of the last times he ever gets to see their gravestone, get to be on Earth and be, have that annual visitation to where they live now. And so it's Tom King, way to go. You've nailed another meaningful book in 5 pages.
Also, like I was saying about the last, and I don't like to compare this to, once again, I'm comparing it to 2, but I don't mean to. It's just the shorts are back to back. So, but Tom King's dialogue in here feels so natural. When I'm reading it, it doesn't feel like I'm getting beaten down by it. It feels like I'm going through the flow, and it feels like music to me. When he's talking about he goes about the eternity formula. It tastes like grapes, which she liked, but it's a lot of years. She's tired of grape. Him saying that, Superman saying that, it's just he's having a conversation with nobody. This issue is just Superman talking to himself. But there's never a part where it just feels like somebody having a monologue. It just feels like he is talking to somebody. And then later on, when he is talking to his dad, and he goes, by the way, there's also a lot of stammering I just noticed in this, and you can tell that Clark is having a hard time being like, this is the last time I'm going to see you guys. Mm-hmm. And he's like, I just think a lot about when we were kids. We were going to church, Pa, and I didn't want to go. I wanted to hang out with Pete, and I was testing you. And I was asking you, how can you spend all that time with science on the farm and still be doing this? And you said you didn't see it that way. It was all the same science, religion, myth, stories. We're all stardust fallen. And so we look to the sky and wait to be reclaimed. And that's when he says goodbye. And that's when he leaves. And I think what Alex is saying is true. And his Batman story, we can see that in with Mr. Miracle. And I think Garrett would agree that when this story is him looking past the costume, and I think that's what he does for all his characters, and being like, who is Clark? And Clark is nobody. He is nobody without his parents. That's the people who shaped them. And he goes back there to make sure that they're okay when the world's ending, even though they're dead already. That's what he was concerned about, making sure he's able to say goodbye one last time before they're gone forever, even though they'll still be, they'll be stardust, like he says, they'll be taken back. And that's what his pa always wanted. And at the end, he's like, goodbye, but not really, because that's his pa thinks he's going back to where he belongs. Yeah. And it's really good. It really is more touching than I thought it would be. Because a lot of these stories in here, I think, strive for that, right? And a lot of them are like cool, like being like, oh, look how cool Superman is. And then we get a story like the Rich Donner one, which is a story about who you can aspire. You don't have to be who they made you be. Taking a line from Logan, but like the guy was like, hey, you've gone through some bad stuff. That doesn't mean you have to be a bad guy.
Yep.
And then we get to this issue, and this issue really is, or this story in this book, it takes away all that stuff about like the first story we talked about those bad guys. I don't know what are they called in that first story.
The Kuns.
It takes away all like this convoluted stuff. Don't need that. Take it out. And what makes the two stories, at least for me, the best one so far in this is they're just so simple. That other one was 3 pages. This one's like 4 pages. And it's just like, who is this character? And it's somebody who is not going back to punish a villain. He's going back to tell him you can live a better life. And then going back, even though he has all these powers, he's using them to go back and say goodbye to his parents one last time and be like, basically say thank you for who you made me be. You didn't have to do that. And goodbye. And it's really great.
It's just a sign of the man. It's not.
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah.
And so it's.
Would you say it makes him super?
The man.
Pun City.
The next story we have is by Louise Simonson and Jerry Ordway and David McCaig. Oh, it came back for colors. Here we go. We have 5 minutes. It's the story where he has 5 minutes for the deadline, and he notices that a conductor is asleep at the wheel. Goes and saves that guy. Notices some guy.
He has a heart attack.
Oh, well, yeah. Oh, yeah, you're right. He's asleep at the wheel.
It's not like he just fell asleep.
And then he notices somebody's robbing a bank. He goes, does that. Sees something's coming in from the atmosphere, and he's to save that. Gets back, and then Perry White's like, hey. He's like, sorry, I will get that 5 minute done. He goes, no. Superman was out there doing some stuff. You're on that story now. And Clark's like, here we go again.
I love my jobs.
This one for me was just like silly. Like I really,
yeah, it's pretty. And when they include Bibbo in there, I'm like, oh god, Bibbo is so annoying.
Is Bibbo the Otis of the comics?
No, he's the guy that runs that. Well,
I know who he is.
Yeah,
I just mean he's like a dummy.
He is, yeah, absolutely. But the one person in there, another part of my checklist, Jimmy Olsen. Gets the worst part in that whole book, but whatever. He's in it. He gets to work with Clark, but then Clark's like, peace.
Yeah.
I know. He's like, he worked with Jimmy to do this, and he takes off. And he comes back, he goes, Jimmy, go take those pictures.
Why is Jimmy not in... I mean, I hope with Bendis' run with the Daily Planet, whenever that Jimmy...
I'm sure he'll be back.
In the fold. Better.
But I think this fell into the 80s, 90s for me, which is like, it's silly. It's not really what I read Superman for. I know, Garrett, you like all of it. But for me, this is like...
I just told you I didn't like the 80s and 90s.
No, but I know. But you said you like Jimmy Olsen, all that kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
Jimmy Olsen's been there since the
one
beginning.
tiny little piece of, hey, Jimmy's on that page.
But I just mean I like my hot dogs with mustard only. I don't like the ketchup. Too
Who's
sweet.
Superman's best friend?
Lois Lane. That's why he married her.
You're the worst.
What do you think, Alex, of this story?
It was fine. I'm kind of on the same boat with you. It was trying to be lighthearted, and in all honesty, I've already read this first part that was just so like the heartfelt ones are the ones I really enjoyed.
Yeah, I don't get the pacing of this. I don't think it should have followed up with Tom King's story
because
either.
like there's the one with Vandal Savage, great. That's a strong issue, and it's a heartfelt issue that no matter where I'm at in time, I will always come back for family. The Tom King one obviously comes back for family. It's heartfelt. It makes me go, wow. That makes me want to search myself for how to be a better
one
man.
is his family that he chose, and one is the family that chose him.
Yep.
And then we have the story with the bad guy.
And then and like you said, it's not about Superman kicking ass. It's about Superman being a good man and going, you don't have, because you made bad choices, like you said, doesn't make you a bad man. These issues where you're trying to point out that he's a Superman and that he's this superhero, that's not the Superman I actually enjoy. I want the man, not the super.
And you know what? I think the other ones don't work. Something that these we'll say series in quote. I guess they are series. The series ones, why they work, at least for me, and then the rest of them don't kind of work because I feel like the rest of them, even though they're trying to be more fun and more about like something about the mythos of Superman, I really do feel like they don't understand that they only had 4 or 5 pages, and so they rushed the story to tell you. While these other ones, like the Tomasi, like the Richard Donner, like the Tom King, they felt like they used as much pages as they needed, and that was it. Mm-hmm. And like, there's no more to that story. Like, they were like, okay, you got 4 pages. Okay, I'm gonna make a 4-page story. The rest of them were like, let me try to condense 12 pages to 4, or let me try to like to condense this all down.
Or they don't understand that Clark Kent is Superman.
Yeah.
They think that Superman is this like, it's kind of like that, me and Alex sometimes like the God version of Batman, God version of Superman. It's like, you're right, like Tom King and like other people have been able to break him down or break Clark down, that Clark Kent is the being and Superman and Batman is just the facade.
Well, you can totally tell that Tom King doesn't care how strong Superman is, because in that story he takes the sand and crushes it to diamonds, and it's like he's shaping that whole thing. But it's done so delicately, like he's taking his time and like trying to get it done and make it look right, rather than there's like no sound effects to be like crunch and like all this stuff to make it look like, oh, look how hard he's doing it. It's just like he's doing it quietly in the background while he's talking to his dad and mom, and then he puts it down, and it's like,
well, and in all honesty, Superman could move Earth out of the sun's range.
it's time to go.
And that's the thing, though. It's the acceptance on Superman's part. I could do these godly things, but that's not my place. This is the natural way of doing it, other than the fact that Lois has taken the Eternity Serum.
Right.
But it gets lonely being on your own.
Action Land, this is Paul Dini and Jose Luis Garcia Lopez and Kevin Nolan on inks, colors by Trish Mulvihill. This is the Storyland where... Storyland. This is the story where they're like in Action Land. It's like an amusement park. And then we learn at the end... Garrett, what's his name?
Mr. Mixapitalik.
Is just...
I still don't know how I can say
It's
that.
not a word.
Yes, it is. Say it backwards.
He's just playing up a fantasy with his sidekick and Gypsy. And just another
This one was
story
one of
about-
those ones I was like, I really didn't need this one.
I like it because, whenever you felt like the biggest pain in your ass, especially for Superman, like when you're having a bad day and you think nothing worse can happen, then Mr. Mixapitalik shows up.
Yeah.
And you're like, fuck.
Yeah, but then he's the one that chooses to let Superman continue to live. Like he could,
Because it's more fun for him.
yeah, and I get that. It's the Dark Knight, Joker, Batman. I'm not going to kill you. I just want to have fun.
Right.
That's what this is.
And that's why him and his girlfriend at the end are like laughing so giddily because they're like, oh, we could do more.
The whole time I read that issue, all I kept thinking of was almost like the sexual innuendos that keep being made. It's like,
I was thinking of like Paul Dini, like this is the story you choose to write.
Yeah.
That's what I thought too. I was like, I don't really... But that character, I've never really liked that character. I mean, I do. Yeah, well, it depends.
Mr. Mixapitalik.
Yeah. But it's always silly and whatever. But
honestly, for me, this is one of my weaker stories for me.
Yeah.
I think the next one's actually probably the strongest.
that is Faster Than a Speeding Bullet by Brett Meltzer, John Cassaday on art, Laura Martin on colors, and letters by Chris Epopoulos. 4 Christopher Reeves, it says.
Yep.
Dedicated to him. Basically, a story of Superman. All it is, and this is another one I think it really works because they understood it's 3-4 pages. It's Superman running towards a hostage situation, and he can see and he knows he's like, I'm not going to make it there in time. But the hostage puts her head against the gun enough so that like it buys him like an extra second.
Yeah,
and like she like pushes against his head and kind of like moves it.
Let's say she kind of budges the gun up a little bit so that it gives him that extra split second to get down there.
Right.
And Superman's like, what you did, Leela. And she goes, Leela, that was brave, Leela. I just did it with Batman did. She goes, that was a joke. He goes, I knew that. I mean it though. You should think about joining the police. And she said, you sound like my dad. He says that all of us are here for a reason. And he says your dad's a smart man. And then later on, like in narration. By the way, in narration, there's a whole scene that takes place in narration where you see Clark and Lois talking, and she goes, "What's up, Clark?" And he goes, "Just think about what happened today." And he goes, "You meet a good one today, didn't you?" He goes, "I meet a good one every day." And she goes, "Yeah, you know what I'm saying, Clark? People always say they're inspired by you, but I think your real secret is you're inspired by them." And it's just that thing going back to like the reason why he loves that planet so much is the people. And he was so amazed being like, you risked your life out there and you didn't have to do that. And she says, well, that's what basically she jokes around, but she's like, that's what you would have done.
It's such a great issue. One of the best parts about it, I love seeing Superman just flying. Like he's flying faster than a speeding bullet. Like those panels where the city's flashing by him, I'm like, I've never seen something so cool. Like usually it's Superman, he just arrives at a location or whatever. And this one, yeah, like the narration and getting to that point in the story. I mean, that's if you watch Superman the movie or Superman 2, won't talk about 3 or 4. You get like that's how Christopher Reeve, like he poured his heart and soul into that character. And they're like when I picture Superman, I think of Christopher Reeve. Like I think that he embodies that character. And I like this as a tribute, and I think Brad Meltzer gets who Superman is. And it was beautifully drawn, and it was one of my favorite parts of this annual. I keep saying annual, but it
Well,
is
that's
like
kind of
annual.
is though.
Yeah, of Action Comics 1000, and wow, it was really great.
I think something for me is that it's seeing Superman struggle that I not enjoy. Sounds wrong, but to see how strong Superman mentally has to be. He goes, I can't make it, but I'm still going to try.
Right.
And then when he acknowledges, oh, she shoved back against the gun, the smart move gives me that extra second, still not giving up. Fly even fast. This is the fastest I've ever had to fly.
Right.
And gets there just in the nick of time to put his hand in front. I mean, it's one of those things that I don't want to see Superman fail, but it's great to see him struggle and be like, I have to do this.
When you said that, I thought of like that. There's also a narration where he's like, I haven't had to fly this fast since Pa, like in Brainiac.
Yep.
I was like, damn.
So it's one of those. This is a strong 4-page run of getting to see again Superman be Superman.
It's nice to acknowledge that continuity too. That Pa died during the Brainiac invasion.
Yeah.
They're
keeping a lot of Jeff Johns stuff in.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know why they would ever write it out of continuity, but
it's just nice that they haven't really referred to that stuff in a long time. So it's
when
nice.
did Ma die?
New 52.
Was it New 52? Okay.
Adios.
So I'm hoping Doomsday Clock.
Pa, that issue, buddy. Pa dies. R.I.P. Next story is The Truth by Roy and Michael Bendis. Jim Lee on pencils. Inks by Scott Williams. Colors by Alex Sinclair. By the way, can I say something? We were talking about Jim Lee's art, right? So literally in this issue, there are 3 different pieces by Jim Lee. There's this story at the end. There's the cover. And then there's an ad at the end here. That's all Jim Lee.
That's Ivan Rice on there, actually.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Okay, well, anyways, we'll talk about the cover and then the actual issue. Superman looks different in this cover, and then in the thing, the actual pages actually look like good Jim Lee. And actually, I was surprised. I was like, oh.
In the Bendis part, compared to I think the cover looks great, but I think he was trying to go for a different style with that.
Yeah.
When I think of Jim Lee's Superman, I think of Hush.
Yeah.
And he's got a little bit more lines. He's got a little bit more sketching work to it. That front cover's got a little bit more just...
But there's some age to the Superman on the cover. I mean, he's got... I don't know if that's gray hair, but it could just be the light reflecting. But this is like... it's just kind of the bulkier animated series version of maybe in Jim Lee's mind, like just when you think Superman, this is what you think of.
So, question, and I want to see what you guys' opinion is. Do you think that Bendis' story was never meant to be part of this, and they were like, hey, you want to put an Action Comics 1000? Okay, we'll give him a taste. Or do you think that out of everybody, Brian Bendis didn't understand he only had like 5 pages and just decided to tell a story that'd be like, to be continued, by the way, in my Man of Steel?
I think in all honesty, it could be either or. Because the way I read it, I was like, oh, maybe. Because I told you guys before the show, I thought that Action Comics was going to be a whole issue of Bendis along with other people. And then when I got to the end of it, and I think he did go into going, oh, yeah, I'm going to write the whole issue. Turns out, oh, we're only going to use this little bit. And it's like, okay.
What did you think, Garrett? Like, does this make you excited for his run or hesitant?
See, that's the thing. It's like I was like so excited for his part in this because I was like, okay, this is going to give me a taste of what's to come. And then I read it, and it went by so quick. I mean, Superman's knocked out. We get the new villain who's going to be the big antagonist for the start of Bendis' run. And I get his reasoning for wanting why he wants to potentially kill all Kryptonians, whatever. But I was like looking for something that Bendis would give me that I've never seen before besides a new villain. And I was like, I don't think that this I mean, it would have been better if he was like, and here's what's to come, and then maybe you showed like this part, because that would have been more like, hey, this is the tribute, this is what's coming.
Yeah.
But again, it has something to do with pacing, like some of those stories that I didn't enjoy. I think compared to everything else, where it's remembering him as opposed to this is changing the direction he's going, I think it was just a weird place to put it. And I think I would rather seen like read DC Nation Zero to start his story. And then like get to his Action Comics 1001, Superman #1, and Man of Steel and all that. And especially because like this is way at the end, like the very last thing. I don't know. It just kind of, it didn't leave a sour taste in my mouth. I didn't think it was bad, but I didn't think it was great either. The art was great.
I think
Jim Lee did awesome. But the story, like I didn't see Bendis in it. It seemed very generic.
I didn't think, there's anything really super special about it. There's nothing really that was like, oh, okay, this run's going to be special. But it wasn't bad either. It wasn't like bad Bendis. It was just like, oh, this is okay. Way too much talk about those red trunks, by the way. Went on for way too long. Being like,
to me, it just sounded like that girl was kind of, I'm digging, I want to know what's underneath those red trunks. That's
way too long. Yeah. And that's just like Bendis
trying to justify having the trunks back.
Well, instead of having people be like, oh yeah, make jokes about it, being like red trunks are back and making jokes, he made all the jokes you could make in those 5 panels. And then we actually at the end, last page, we get a reveal kind of what the change will be to the origin instead of the planet blowing up from natural, whatever the hell was happening.
It's always been implied somebody did further.
There's been different reasons though. Brainiac,
right. Brainiac, Zod. Even.
So now whoever this new guy is, he's like, that's why I killed Krypton or destroyed Krypton. And it's like, okay, so.
And it's like, and then the big thing is you're going to find out why. ...
Yeah. So there's a reason like why, like maybe somebody sent them or like why is he going to kill all Kryptonians? And like, so that's going to be the hook of this Man of Steel thing, which is the thing that Brian Michael Bendis is changing in Man of Steel. We're going to go back and examine the origins of Superman and see why this is happening. So like, I don't know. It makes me, I am as interested as it was before to continue reading Bendis' Superman, but it didn't make me be like, oh yeah, this is going to be good.
There's a part of me that I liked the idea of this villain, but then it also came across as the staple of what every a chunk of Superman villains are. He's super strong.
Yeah, I know.
And that kind of bugged me. I thought I'm kind of in that boat of I want more methodical, I want more Lex Luthor-ish bad guys where it's not about power, it's about how can I screw with you?
See, how he's got that skull on his belt? That would have been cool if it was like, I don't know, some fallen child of Krypton or something like that.
More personal word.
Right.
Do you watch Superman's got a black eye? Is like, what? I mean, not even that heals, just that he forces that eye.
Right.
Oh.
You say what now?
Yeah.
Yeah, and he still gets the shit kicked out of him. So, good start, decent start, but I need more of a hook.
I'm intrigued. I will get Action Comics. I'll try Superman. I'll get that Man of Steel. But I'm kind of in the same boat with you guys. There's nothing that I'm like, yeah, hook, line, and sinker, top notch going to get.
I think also, like we were saying, it is really a disservice to the story because it's not a full story and because we don't get the full thing. And it really should be, if it's going to be included in the thing, be the best story in here. Since you want me to buy more books about this, but it is in a bad spot because you have an amazing Richard Donner, Jeff Johns story. You have a good Tom King story. You have a Brad Meltzer story that's pretty great. And then we get this, and it just looks worse by comparison with those other things because it's included in this thing where we're celebrating a character. And like Garrett said, there's nothing really in this story that celebrates this character. It's just like an action scene.
Right.
And it's like, okay, so like, is this like this could have been like a preview?
It feels like a preview. It does feel like 100% a preview.
It just feels like a story added on to make it 80 pages. And I know they want us to get excited for Brian Michael Bendis, and we would be with you there. It's just this isn't the place for it.
But let it happen naturally. You're trying to force it.
Release something. You don't put at the end of the Action Comics. Those specials, one-shot specials are coming out. Put it at the end of that.
Mm-hmm.
Or why couldn't it be he's walking down the street, he hears something, he starts like it seems like someone's in danger. He strips into his Superman stuff. He's flying towards it. And out of the air pops this guy right onto his back, crushes him into the ground. He's bloody and he's unconscious. And it says, find out more.
See, and that's what I was thinking. That the reveal is, like you said, Superman goes to find something. the reveal is that he's the bad guy standing there with the scepter. That's all you see.
And it could have been like Thanos punching Iron Man. Like he clocks him and Superman gets knocked the fuck out.
Yep.
And then it's like, holy shit.
Yep.
But this is like you let the guy talk for too long.
Well, and you let him be. You already see now he's so strong. There's nothing left of the imagination. There's nothing making me wonder, oh, what's going to happen? It's, I'm going to get the book because it looks good, but there's not a whole lot of mystery right now.
And yeah, we've already said it, but when I think of this comic, I think it has been great. It's like honoring a legacy of a character, and then you get to that, and then it's like that part in Civil War II where the guy's flat, like he's having a vision of all the future events coming up, and that, and like again, it wasn't bad, but it just wasn't anything. It was just a moment.
Yeah.
Overall, I give the whole issue an 8.
Yes, an 8.
Yeah, I'd give it an 8.
There's some stories that are 10s, there's some stories that are less, so it's not really like a true average, but if you look at my head, that makes sense. 8.
I think this is one of those books that the ones that are weaker, I had higher hopes for this, that a lot of them were going to be the Tom Kings or the Jeff Johns stories that really were kind of a celebration of not Superman, but of Clark. And those are the strong points for me, is the Clark stories.
And I believe, I'm sure Dan DiDio, I mean, I know he's the editor, but it would have been nice to maybe have a little more structure to this issue instead of like, oh, we'll put this here and this here and this here. It's like, why?
You're right, though. Yeah, like the way they were put in this is kind of messed up.
It should have been, it's kind of like when they do the holiday specials or anything, there should be a message overthrown, which I think that some of them are like on the same page, like he's inspired by the people, they're inspired by you. You honor what came before. You want to look ahead to the future.
Hell, that Bendis story you put at the beginning, I wouldn't be so disappointed by it.
I think I would have liked to have seen the Bendis story start off, and much like they did in the holiday special, it started off with the story. Here's the break. Here's all the other stories in between. Then finish out the issue with the Bendis.
Yeah.
And I mean, have a whole issue, but in between, halfway through, is all the rest of your stuff. Be like, wow, let's celebrate this character, and then watch Superman come back.
So it's a full actual issue.
So it's
like
a full actual issue.
Yeah, I like that.
But in between, there'd be the fillers.
80 years of Superman. That's an 80-page giant Action Comics 1000 for $8. A lot of people involved, like we said: Scott Snyder, Dan Jurgens, Raphael Albuquerque, Norm Ramut, Peter J. Tomasi, Patrick Gleason, Tom King, Clayman, Mark Wolfman, Kurt Swan, Paul Dini, Jose Luis Garcia Lopez, Brad Meltzer, John Cassaday, Jeff Johns, Richard Donner, Olivier Corpel, Brian Michael Bendis, and Jim Lee, plus more, like I said earlier in the show. Garrett, any final words on 1,000 before we move on here?
Well, I'm just looking forward to, another 80 years. I think with reading Superman,
I won't live that well.
Sucks to suck. With reading like Superman number 45 and reading this, you do realize that people obviously still care about Superman, who he is as a character. He wouldn't have made it to 1,000 issues otherwise. And it reaffirms for me like why I love this character so much. Because he does inspire me. He makes me want to be the best person that I can be. And it's cool to think of him as like a fictitious person that's always around that, hey, if Superman can handle this, I mean, even though I don't have his powers or anything like that, like I can associate being like, it's not easy to be Superman, but he still does it. So, I can't wait to see what happens next. And I hope that, we just keep on flying.
And he's better than Aquaman Sarge, by the way. Just want to put that out there. We have listen to the show for a voicemail.
I think for a fictitious character, he stands for real life morals that many people could benefit from. And so to have him be 80 years strong and with hopefully many more to come, that's some big shoes to look forward to seeing.
Superman, I think it's reflective in the stories that I liked in this issue, is he's not only the Man of Steel because he is strong and invulnerable. Is the man, knows his morals and knows where he stands and knows at the end of the day who he fights for and why he fights. And I think that's what makes him strong. It's not because he can move a planet like Alex said before. It's because the planet moves him.
Heyo.
That was like a Jeff Goldblum.
Action Comics 1000, Wednesday Comics 605 at gmail.com. Email us your favorite Superman story of all time. Garrett will see if it's valid or not. At Alex
If you say
Pastrello-
grounded, dead to me.
At Alex Pastrello on Twitter, at Garrett2188, at Marvin_Salguero, at Pastrami News. Wish him good luck. Pastrami's going on.
When you find those 7 Dragon Balls, wish him back.
He is, yeah, no, that's what it is. What? That's where he went. He went to go find them. He told me he wants to be a real boy. Not
He's looking for Frieza. Got confused when he saw the freezer.
He doesn't want to be a pastrami anymore. He wants to be a real man. So he's gonna go find the balls and wish to be real. On Facebook at facebook.com/Wednesday Comics Podcast. On YouTube at Wednesday Comics. Find us on there. By the way, you might have noticed this week the forecast wasn't on there. Make sure you subscribe to the show, the audio wise, on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher Radio, or Spotify. I didn't put it on there because somebody keeps claiming that they made that song, and they did not because I made that song. And I just tired, even though I can claim it back and like, okay, yeah, it is yours. Every single video they keep claiming, I'm just tired of dealing with it. So the forecast from now on, listen to audio on one of these feeds. By the way, you should always be subscribed to the show anyways on one of these feeds. The YouTube is just extra, just in case you need it. What does it say? Oh, we got a book club, right, Alex? Garrett?
It's you.
Wednesday Comics, Leave Extraordinary Gentle People proudly presents
Saga of the Swamp Thing, book 1. We're going to be reading by Alan Moore. Go to rootsofswampthing.com if you have any questions on the Swamp Thing. He will be joining us for that show, and we'll talk all things swamp. Swamp Thing. And
We're just going to talk the Bayou.
it's one of the seminal works. Who's that? Seminal works of Alan Moore. It's one of the things that really was one of his first things that he did and made him like who he was. There's some Batman in there. I'm not sure if it's in that book, but he's in that story. So go ahead and read that and read it along with us. Send it in a voicemail, 605-215-1849. Go to Twitter, send us a tweet, DM if you want to. Let me know, I'll follow you. You can send us a Facebook message, send us an email, or read it and listen to it on the show. When we do that, that'll be in July. So it might not be actually July 4th, like we were talking about, because there's a lot of books coming out that week. We might push it back a week. So you'll have an extra week to get in your voicemails.
We got to cover the wedding and the new Captain America.
A lot of stuff happening.
What else was going on? That's right.
Supercon 2018, Return of the Con, this September 28th, 29th, and 30th. We're going to be there for a live show, 28th, but that does not mean you only need to buy one ticket for that Friday. You need to buy it for the whole weekend. That's $30. Supercon.com. Go there for more information. There's a lot of stuff going on that weekend. We're bringing Phil Hester to the show. He'll be there, and you can meet him and let him know how you're enjoying his work on Batman Beyond and other things. Rootsoftheswampthing.com. Go there, visit our sponsor, let them know that we sent you. You can find them on Twitter, also DC World Swampy, Facebook.com/rootsoftheswampthing. If you have any questions after you read the Saga of Swamp Thing, that's the man you talk to. That's the man who knows the swamp. That's the man who is the avatar of the green. Like I said, subscribe to the show, Spotify, Google Play, iTunes, and Stitcher Radio. By the way, we're on more things than that. That's only the things that I did, though. I've been finding us on multiple things, so people keep spreading that word. We're getting a lot of good buzz out there. And like I said, if you know anybody in Alaska, any relatives, you send them this. Don't send them the file. Send them the link to the website. I need them to download it while they're in Alaska.
Why don't you send them the city of Alaska, like 100 bookmarks?
Should. The public library? That's not a bad call. We'll look into it. I got to get Alaska on this map of people we've downloaded because we almost have this whole continental USA. Well, excuse me, all of it. Even Alaska. And we have Hawaii. Those guys down there are chilling. But in Alaska, they don't got Wi-Fi. So, good episode. It's, you know what, actually, you
ever thought about maybe they don't get comics up there and they are so insulted that they keep getting annoyed by Wednesday Comics going, hey, listen to our show, listen to our comic books that we talk about. And they're like, I can't get them up here. Like you said, our Wi-Fi doesn't work, so I can't get Hoopla.
Our polar bear delivery service is really slow.
The polar bears keep destroying the books, so we never get to read them. Maybe you are insulting them, and that's why they don't want to listen to the show.
They still got a Blockbuster up there, so you're right. They're back in the 1990s. So. Of course. Last couple episodes, and this episode and the next one definitely will be longer than usual. There's a lot to talk about this month. April was going to be the month of months for us. We announced that a couple weeks ago. There's a lot of stuff going on. We'll go back to the games and the shenanigans after we delve deep this episode. We tell you who it is to be a man. You got to be super. And next week, we'll tell you what it means to be an Avenger, and that is mighty. My name is Marvin.
I'm Alex.
And I'm Garrett.
Hey, everyone. Keep turning those pages.
Sergeant America coming at you. Boom! All right, guys, I am begging you, this week of all weeks, every week you talk about Superman. This week, please, just drop the Superman. Just this 1 week, I'm asking you guys, forget Superman. Just don't talk about it. Talk about Aquaman. Aquaman is the new Superman. That's what you guys should be talking about. Aquaman. So I'm begging you, no more Superman. At least give it a week off. Next week, cover it. Whatever may be happening. I'm not in the news. I don't know what's going on. But I'm asking you, do not do Superman this week. Aquaman. Catchphrase.